Chapter 191. Lan Hua's sudden appearance caused the lightning tribulation to strike them even more violently. But this was only a golden immortal's heavenly tribulation. To a former celestial emperor like Lan Hua, this did not affect him at all. Instead, he helped Shen Tong block a lot of the lightning tribulation. He sat cross-legged behind Shen Tong, demonic qi surging around his body. His divine perception was just about to draw out the demonic qi from her body when Shen Tong sealed her 5 senses, subconsciously preventing the foreign aura from approaching. "Good Heart asked me to save you," Lan Hua explained. Then after some thought he added, "It was your sect master." Shen Tong hesitated, then gave up resisting and allowed his divine perception to enter her body. A moment later Lan Hua found the source of her demonic qi. He was slightly shocked. Why was there the aura of a demonic seed in her body? He did not think too much about it. He tried his best to draw out the demonic qi from her body. Although she was cooperating with him, the lightning tribulation would strike from time to time. Her speed was not very fast. But the remaining demonic qi in Shen Tong's body was indeed decreasing. They did not know if it was an illusion, but as the demonic qi disappeared, Shen Tong's immortal bones were growing faster. An hour later, Lan Hua finally drew out the last bit of demonic qi from her body. He stood up and left the area of the heavenly tribulation. "It's done." He looked at Shening and said, "The demonic qi in her primordial spirit has been cleared. She just needs to endure the last few bolts of lightning and she will be able to form her immortal bones." "Thank you, Celestial Emperor Lan Hua." Qingyu stepped forward and bowed. Then she heaved a sigh of relief. Shen Tong had been brought up by her. Naturally, she was more nervous than anyone else. As the sect master, Shening felt that she should express her gratitude. "Elder Lan, don't speak." Lan Hua immediately interrupted. "Please, every time you speak I want to give you something." He did not want to be left with only his underwear. "Shening, Qingyu, everyone, the lightning tribulation is ending soon," Lone Moon reminded them. Everyone turned to look. Indeed, the immortal qi around Shen Tong was getting thicker and thicker. The lightning tribulation was getting stronger and stronger. Even the array that Lone Moon had specially set up was showing signs of loosening. Lightning was faintly shining from the outside. "Celestial Emperor Chu Xian, help me." Lone Moon turned to Chu Xian as he rearranged the array. Chu Xian was straightforward. He and Lone Moon set up the array, one on the left and one on the right. Waves of magical light flashed before his eyes, once again blocking the remaining might of the heavenly lightning outside. At this time 79 bolts of lightning had struck down, and there were only 2 left. Perhaps it was because Lan Hua had helped her block a portion of the heavenly lightning, but Shen Tong was in a pretty good state. 2 of the strongest golden immortal heavenly lightning bolts came crashing down on her, but she managed to withstand it. Even though his entire body had been burnt to a crisp and he was lying on the ground on his last breath, his immortal bones had already grown back. In fact, because he had transcended the tribulation, the immortal energy around him was slightly denser than other body cultivators of the same cultivation level. "It's fine now." Qingyu heaved a long sigh of relief and exited the array formation. She walked over, her voice tinged with joy. Little you, don't go over there." She was just about to exit the array formation when Feng Ying suddenly pulled her back. The next moment, a bolt of heavenly fire descended from the sky at a speed faster than the heavenly lightning. It struck the heavily injured Shen Tong on the ground. The system notification on Feng Ying's body also ended. "Danger warning. Detected a high heat energy object approaching." In less than 2 breaths' time, the entire protective mountain array was engulfed in a sea of fire. The entire invincible sect was dyed crimson. Wildfire. Everyone's eyes widened in disbelief. How is this possible? Why did the wildfire appear? Although an immortal's advancement would produce 36 bolts of wildfire, Shen Tong was only an immortal. Moreover, she was the lowest level earth immortal. The bit of immortal qi in her body could not possibly attract the wildfire. What's more, the demonic qi in her body had been cleared. She was now a real immortal. The last few bolts of lightning could be attributed to the fact that the heavenly tribulation had been triggered and she had to endure it. But what was with the wildfire? Shen Tong's figure was no longer in the flames. Even her weak aura could not be felt. "Little Tong!" Qingyu cried out. She was about to rush in to save her when Feng Ying held her back. "Wait, little you. If you go in, the power of the heavenly tribulation will double. You're only a golden immortal. You won't be able to withstand it." "But Shen Tong. If this goes on she will die." She looked anxious. Seeing that the next bolt of wildfire was about to descend, she turned to look at the person behind her. Elder Lone Moon, what exactly? Lone Moon looked confused as well. I don't know either. Where's Shining? Only then did everyone realize that Shining, who had been standing beside them, had disappeared. At that moment, in the heart of the wildfire, Shining helped up the charcoal that no longer looked human. She patted its face and said, "Hey Shorty, are you still alive?" After a while, that piece of charcoal finally glanced at her. It seemed to have used all the strength in its body to move its fingers, and gently tugged at the corner of her clothes. God. In the next moment, its hand fell and there was no more movement. Shorty. Xian Tong did not respond at all. Shining frowned. In the next moment, there was a whirring sound above their heads. A huge red fireball descended from the sky and smashed directly in their direction. It carried with it a pressure that could destroy heaven and earth. The scorching heat caused everything on the ground to ignite before it even hit the ground. It looked like it was about to hit the two of them. Xin Ying's expression turned cold. The anger in her heart rose. She carried the person on the ground and stood up. Lifting her leg, she kicked the fireball back like she was kicking a ball. Get lost. You're blind. You're throwing fire at me. With a swoosh, the heavenly fire flew back into the sky at a speed 10 times faster than when it had landed. It burrowed into the clouds. The next moment there was a loud rumble. It was as if something had exploded in the sky. The thunderclouds that had yet to disperse were instantly ignited like flammable explosives. The sky was suddenly lit up with a sea of fire, turning the entire world red. Shining turned to look at the sea of fire around her. Her eyes narrowed. In an instant, the surrounding flames seemed to shrink. The prairie fire surrounding the two of them retreated, revealing a path. Only then did she turn around and walk away with the charred body in her arms. After a while, she changed her direction and walked back to the mountain guarding formation that was not far away. Lone Moon, I Ching. The two emperors, the couple, speaking of which, what exactly happened inside just now? Why did the sky suddenly catch fire? Why did the fire on the ground suddenly extinguish? And could the heavenly tribulation be interrupted midway? Shining placed Xian Tong on the ground and waved at Chu Xian. Chicken, come and take a look. Chu Xian trembled. Then he reacted. Chicken is here. He hurried over and performed an incantation gesture to cast a heart protection incantation on the man on the ground, protecting his heart and meridians. Then he used his immortal chi to examine him carefully. However, the more he examined, the deeper his frown became. He looked hesitantly at the crowd, and only after a long moment did he speak. Exalted goddess. When her immortal bones were formed, she was already at the end of her rope. She was just hanging on to her last breath. He sighed. He admired this lady's perseverance. She could have recovered by just regulating her breathing. But she was hit by the prairie fire. Moreover, she was not prepared and the deviant fire entered her body. Now that the prairie fire has invaded her heart meridians, and she has a water spirit root. Water and fire do not mix. She cannot regulate her own breathing. The result. Chu Xian shook his head and continued, her meridians are all broken. Her foundation is destroyed. Her immortal bones are broken. Even her primordial spirit has been corroded by the prairie fire. It will be very difficult for her to recover. And even if she recovers, I'm afraid, her cultivation will be destroyed. Chapter 192. Everyone fell silent. They had always known that this child was unlucky, but they did not expect her to be this unlucky. Qingyu could not take it anymore. Her body swayed as she tried to hold back the tears in her eyes. She was the one who taught Xian Tong her cultivation. All these years, no one knew better than her how hard Xian Tong had worked. She had long regarded Xian Tong as her only disciple, but now, Lone Moon's expression did not look too good. He turned to look at Shining, who was standing there in deep thought. Then he instructed Chu Xian, send her back to the side hall first. Chu Xian picked up the person on the ground and flew back to the side hall where the invincible sect disciples were staying. Yu Hong. Lone Moon glanced at Chu Xian, who was treating Xian Tong's injuries. He pulled the red-robed girl aside and said, go to the capital and ask the richest man in the city, exalted immortal Xu Jiang, to come over. I remember he is a famous immortal doctor. He might have a way. Yes, elder. Yu Hong turned to go out. Wait. Lone Moon thought for a moment and added, if you can't find him, go to the war-stopping palace and look for Sun Shu. He is the emperor now, he should be of some use. Tell him Shining said it. I understand. Yu Hong nodded and flew away on her sword. A month later, Chu Xian had the highest cultivation level among all the immortals here. With him around, Xian Tong's condition had stabilized. Her injuries had also healed. Her skin color had returned to normal. Although Chu Xian was a celestial emperor, he did not know much about medicine. His only expertise was in array formations. Lan Hua might have learned a lot, but he was still a fiendish cultivator. Even if he got close to Xian Tong, he could affect her, much less help her. That was why he stayed in the back mountain with Radish for the past few days. Perhaps because her injuries were too serious, Xian Tong did not wake up. When Yu Hong brought Xu Jiang back for treatment, Xu Jiang said the same thing as Chu Xian. But after a few days of treatment, Xian Tong started to wake up. Finally, a month later, she opened her eyes. Little Tong. Qi Qingyu, who had been watching over her for a month, was the first to pounce on her. She scanned her from head to toe and asked worriedly, "How are you?" The person on the bed was stunned for a moment. She opened her mouth as if she wanted to say something, but no sound came out. Her face was immediately dyed with a panicked expression. Qingyu hurriedly comforted him. "You're seriously injured, you need to recuperate slowly. It's normal to not be able to speak for a while." The person on the bed shook her head as if she was in a hurry to say something. "Don't worry." Qingyu stroked her head and said slowly, "With the sect master, the elders and the celestial emperor around, you will be fine." Only then did Xian Tong turn around subconsciously. "Hey, little shorty." Qining waved in greeting. However, the person on the bed trembled violently and looked at her with wide eyes. He almost fell off the bed. Fortunately, Qingyu caught him. "Don't be agitated. Little Ing is here to see you." Qingyu smiled. As a member of her Fangirl group, she could naturally understand her feelings. After all, she had been in seclusion for a long time in order to ascend to immortality. Unfortunately, this fairy still needs to recuperate. Why don't? Xu Jiang gave the few people a look, indicating for them to leave. Everyone understood. Lone Moon nodded at Qingyu, then led the whole house of people out. "Rest well?" Qining also instructed. She glanced at the person on the bed who had shrunk herself under the blanket. She turned and followed Father Nyo out. Passing by the window, she touched it casually. Her hand was covered in dust. She paused for a moment, then stepped out of the room. The few of them returned to the front hall. Xu Jiang wiped the sweat off his forehead and bowed respectfully to the few people. "Celestial Emperor, 2 young emperors. Although fellow immortal Xian has awakened, her primordial spirit and destroyed foundation are extremely difficult to repair. I'm also powerless." "Even the spirit convening lamp won't work?" Lone Moon asked anxiously. Wasn't the spirit convening lamp able to repair an immortal's primordial spirit? Shu Han looked troubled. Fellow immortal Xian's injury was caused by the prairie fire entering her body. In addition, her spirit root is resistant to the fire, so the longer it lasts, the more serious it becomes. Although the spirit convening lamp can repair the primordial spirit, as long as the blazing qi in her body is not expelled, this injury will recur. The spirit convening lamp cannot cure the root cause. Repairing it without permission will only cause her to suffer more pain. Lone Moon frowned. Now he was really sure that Xian Tong was not some evil female lead. For a female lead to behave like this, it would lower the standard of the female lead's halo. Is there really no other way? Xian Tong was a disciple of the sect after all. If the halo of a female lead could not protect her as a nanny, Pui as an elder, of course he had to take responsibility. Xu Jiang glanced at Chu Xian and said hesitantly, "There is one way." "What way?" "Have you heard of the Luohan stone, young emperor?" "What the hell?" "Luohan stone." Chu Xian was shocked. "You mean Yi Shui Xian Han's Luohan stone?" "That's right." Xu Jiang nodded. "It's Celestial Emperor Xian Han's divine artifact, the Luohan stone. Since the Celestial Emperor of Hechuan was here, perhaps they could really borrow it. It is said that this item is the coldest thing in the world. It can freeze the sea in an instant. It is the nemesis of the blazing qi in fellow immortal Xian's body. We can draw it out of her body and then repair her foundation." Celestial Emperor Xian Han. Lone Moon frowned. He did not expect to be brought back to this scumbag again. Previously, it was the fox demon who borrowed the spirit convening lamp to save him. This time, it was their turn to borrow the Luohan stone. What goes around comes around. "Thank you, exalted immortal Shu." Lone Moon bowed to Xu Jiang. "Young Emperor, you are too kind." Xu Jiang hurriedly returned the bow. After some thought he added, "Oh yes, fellow immortal Shen's condition is inconvenient for her to move. It would be best if you could borrow the Luohan stone. Also, this cannot be delayed. Otherwise, even if the blazing qi is removed, it will be difficult to repair her foundation. Alright, we'll remember that. Lone Moon nodded. Xu Jiang gave a few more instructions, then continued to look at Xian Tong in the side hall. It looks like we have to make a trip there. This matter cannot be delayed. Shining, we are now. Shining? Shining. Lone Moon pushed the person next to him who was still holding the fruit. Shining faltered. She lost her grip on the fruit and dropped it. I Ching, who was beside her, hurriedly handed her a new one. What are you doing? Why are you in a daze? Lone Moon glanced at her, confused. She even forgot to eat the fruit. How rare. What's wrong with you these few days? I feel like you've been acting strange since the day of Xian Tong's heavenly tribulation. Master? I Ching looked over worriedly. Your appetite these few days has also decreased by 1%. Do you have to be so precise? Straight face, Lone Moon seemed to have thought of something. His eyes widened. You didn't find out anything else, did you? Not really. Shining tilted her head. A moment later, she sat up straight and looked at the two seriously. Chef Father Nyo. Don't you think? Wait. Lone Moon suddenly raised his hand and gestured for her to stop. Don't say it now. What? Lone Moon said seriously. Every time you speak seriously, I feel like I have to add an epiphany buff. We still have to rush to Yishui. We don't have time to pause. We'll talk about it when I'm ready. I Ching, Xu Xian, Shining, son of AB*. Chapter 193. The Yishui continent was in the northernmost part of the immortal realm. It was different from Fengtsang, where it was spring all year round. It was a snow-white world of ice and snow. Along the way they saw very little green. Apart from the snow, there was only the boundless sea beside them. Because they were in a hurry to save someone, the three did not linger on the continent. They headed straight for the heavens beyond heaven's Yishui palace. Along the way they did not see many immortal officials. It was rather quiet. With the pass that Chu Xian gave them, they arrived at the heavenly palace's entrance without any obstructions. After a brief explanation of their purpose to the immortal official, someone went in to inform the immortal official. Not long after, someone came out to greet them and greeted them. The Celestial Emperor invites you in. Without another word, he led them towards the main hall. There was a person sitting in the hall. He was dressed in white and his long hair was tied up high. His angular face looked very righteous, but his eyes were as cold as ice. It was as if one look at them would cause ice and snow to float out. He did not have the slightest bit of humanity, only a coldness that came from his bones. From his aura he must be the Celestial Emperor, Xian Han. Greetings, Celestial Emperor. The three bowed politely. The person above glanced at the three of them, his eyes still emotionless. After a while, he opened the door and said in a cold tone, You are from Invincible Sect? That's right. Lone Moon habitually put on a business-like expression. Xian Han seemed to have thought of something. He frowned and said coldly, I remember. I sent someone to send the spirit convening lamp back to Fengtsang. Celestial Emperor, you misunderstand. We have indeed received the lamp. Lone Moon continued, We are not here to ask for the spirit convening lamp. Oh? Why is that? Lone Moon smiled even more warmly. It's like this. One of our disciples had some problems during his tribulation, causing the qi of the flames to enter his body. We thought of many ways but could not get rid of it, so you want to borrow the Luohan stone. Xian Han said directly. His voice was still cold but his brows furrowed. That's right, we are here for the Luohan stone. Lone Moon had already guessed that it would not be so easy to borrow it. He tried his best to calm his tone and said seriously, I also know that this is a divine artifact, but we are eager to save people. As long as the Celestial Emperor agrees, we are willing to exchange the divine refining bell for it. If the Empyrean Lord is worried, we can go together. As he spoke, he raised his hand and a small bell covered in cracks appeared in his hand. He had been too busy these few days and had not had the time to send it to Sun Shu for repairs. He wouldn't feel the pinch even if he gave it away. Xian Han's expression did not change. He glanced at the divine refining bell in Lone Moon's hand. A moment later he continued, Everyone lent me the spirit convening lamp to help me recover my primordial spirit. I should agree to all kinds of requests, and the Luohan stone is indeed in this heavenly palace. It's just that, it's not convenient to lend it to you. What do you mean by that, Celestial Emperor? Lone Moon paused. If he wanted to borrow it, he wanted to borrow it. If he didn't want to borrow it, he didn't want to borrow it. What did he mean by it being inconvenient? Xian Han's frown deepened. His expressionless face darkened. Suddenly he sighed and stood up. As he turned and walked towards the back of the palace, he said, "Everyone follow me and you will understand." Lone Moon and the others exchanged a look and followed him. Xian Han led them through a sea of clouds towards an independent immortal palace. As he flew on his sword, he explained to them. That day I was still recovering from my injuries. Fairy Baiqiao brought the spirit convening lamp. My primordial spirit was at its most unstable. To stabilize my primordial spirit, she forcibly lit the spirit convening lamp and used the soul subduing technique. So, he waved his hand and the doors of the immortal palace opened automatically. A gust of cold white qi rushed towards them. Even Lone Moon and Yi Qing, who were young emperors, could not help but be shocked by the cold qi. The inside of the immortal palace was already snow white, and the ground inside was covered with thick ice. A person lay on the platform in the middle of the layer of ice. She was dressed in a pink fairy dress and seemed to be asleep. They could feel a faint aura emanating from her. Baiqiao, Lone Moon exclaimed. A few months ago she was still alive and kicking, stealing lights. How did she become like this? Her breathing was weak, as if she could die at any moment. Her cultivation level is too low. She forced herself to use the divine artifact and the soul-subduing technique. That's why her sorcery backfired and her primordial spirit was injured. Xian Han shook his head. There was no guilt or heartache on his face. Instead, there was only disapproval. I only realized this after I woke up. But I know too little about primordial spirit sorcery. I could only use the Luohan stone to freeze her dantian and meridians so that her condition would not worsen. With that he conjured a seal. The next moment, a piece of red jade appeared above the ice bed. It floated in midair and emitted a steady stream of cold qi. Without the Luohan stone, her condition would worsen. That's why I can't lend it to you, Xian Han explained in a low voice. He helped Baiqiao up from the ice bed and conjured a few healing spells. Baiqiao, who was originally covered in a thin layer of ice, now had a few drops of water on her forehead, and her complexion had regained some color. Her eyelids moved as if she was about to wake up. After a while, she slowly opened her eyes. Are you feeling better? Xian Han asked. His voice was still cold. Baiqiao paused. You. Her voice was hoarse. Her face contorted in pain. Lone Moon frowned. On the way here, he had prepared himself that she would not lend it to him. He was prepared to pay a huge price for it. He did not expect this to be the reason. They wanted to borrow the Luohan stone to save someone. Now he wanted to save someone. He did not know what to say. The Celestial Emperor said that her primordial spirit was injured? Yi Qing suddenly asked. The two people on the other side were stunned. Even Baiqiao, who was on the bed, turned around. She seemed to recognize them and her eyes suddenly widened. You need to rest. Xian Han comforted her softly. He waved a hand in front of her eyes. Baiqiao's body went limp. Her eyes widened for a moment, then slowly closed again. She fell into a deep sleep. He helped Baiqiao lie down. Then he turned to the two of them and nodded. Baiqiao's primordial spirit was indeed injured. Lone Moon also reacted and immediately understood what Yi Qing meant. That's easy. My sect's spirit convening lamp is naturally more useful than the Luohan stone. What do you think? He took a step forward and suggested, we'll leave the spirit convening lamp here. The Celestial Emperor will lend us the Luohan stone. When my sect's disciple recovers, we'll exchange the Luohan stone. Of course, fellow immortal Baiqiao's injuries must also recover. What do you think? Xian Han hesitated for a moment. Then he nodded. That's a win-win situation. All right. Lone Moon turned his hand and took out the spirit convening lamp. He did not take it. Instead he looked down at Baiqiao. Please come with us. Please wait for a moment. I'll keep the Luohan stone. Lone Moon and the others nodded. They took the lamp and left. Xian Han was quick. In a short while, the cold qi around the immortal palace disappeared. He came out with the Luohan stone and exchanged it with Lone Moon for the spirit convening lamp. The few of them were in a hurry to save Baiqiao. They bade farewell politely and flew out of the heavenly palace. When they could no longer see the heavenly palace, Yi Qing said, he did it on purpose. Chapter 194. You can tell too? Lone Moon glanced at him and nodded. There is something wrong with this Xian Han. But this Luohan stone is real. Having known Sun Shu for so long, Lone Moon could tell if a divine artifact was real or fake. Why did Xen Han lead them to exchange the Luohan stone for the spirit-convening lamp? Was it really to save Bai Qiao? It's not for her. I Ching said confidently, as if guessing what Sun Shu was thinking. The man looked at Bai Qiao with an emotionless expression. Who cares? Anyway, we've already borrowed the Luohan stone. Lone Moon did not think too much about it. But seeing this celestial emperor with my own eyes, I'm starting to believe that he's an emotionless, heartless man. Bai Qiao was so loyal to him, but the way he looked just now, not only did he not feel touched, he did not even feel guilty. In fact, when he spoke, it was as if there was ice in his voice. He does. What did he mean? Sun Shu frowned. Although that man looked like an emotionless block of ice, he felt that the coldness he exuded was deliberate. Furthermore, Master said that feelings have nothing to do with the heart unless you're retarded. Lone Moon rolled his eyes. Shining don't always... Where's Shining? He turned to find that there was no one beside him. The person who was supposed to be standing on I Ching's flying sword was nowhere to be seen. Suddenly he had a bad feeling. Holy shit. When did she disappear? I think when we left the Heavenly Palace. Master wasn't there? Wait. Did she follow us into the Heavenly Palace? I Ching, Lone Moon, water Heavenly Palace in the ice room just now. The thick layer of ice had disappeared. Although there was still some lingering cold chi, it was not as bone-chilling as before. The person who had been unconscious on the ice bed had woken up. She pressed a hand to her chest, panting heavily. After a while she turned to get down. Suddenly, a white light flashed around her. Bai Qiao screamed. She realized that there was an array beneath her. She took a closer look and realized that it was a trapping array. Jiao Jiao. A cold male voice came from beside her. Xen Han suddenly appeared beside her and reached out to stroke her cheek. Why are you still so impulsive? The person on the bed was stunned and subconsciously moved back, avoiding his touch. She swept a glance at the person who was clearly saying such doting words, but his eyes were still cold. The eyeliner moved to the lamp in his hand, and a hint of anger flashed in his eyes. What do you want? Xen Han's expression remained impassive. A moment later he said in a low voice, Jiao Jiao, after all these years, you should know best what I want. Isn't all of this because of you? Bai Qiao's face darkened. What do you mean? What's wrong? Are you going back on your word? Xen Han laughed icily. His eyes turned even colder. Bai Qiao didn't say anything, but her expression became even more vigilant. Suddenly he leaned closer to her. His cold expression was suddenly tinged with anger. When you fell into the mortal realm, if you hadn't possessed her body and taken over her identity, I wouldn't have mistaken you for her. She is my Tao companion. You stole everything from her. After you ascended, you lied to me for so many years. Do you feel even the slightest bit of guilt towards her? I've said it before, I'm not. Is there any point in denying it now? Xen Han interrupted her. His expression became even colder. Didn't you say that you would do anything for me? Then how about you give your body to her now? What? Bai Qiao's eyes widened. Xen Han's lips curved into a smile. His cold expression suddenly became lively, as if he was sprinkled with thousands of stars. Even Bai Qiao was stunned. I found. He spoke slowly, but his eyes were fixed on the person in front of him, as if trying to read something from her face. I finally found her reincarnation. You stole her body back then. Isn't it only right for you to return it to her? You want to swap our souls? Bai Qiao was in disbelief. I only just found out that she's in the immortal realm. Speaking of which, I have to thank you for letting me know about this lamp. He looked at the lamp in his hand, then at her face again. This time he did not let her escape. He grabbed her by the neck. You owe her. You have to repay her eventually. Bai Qiao could not make a sound. Xen Han stared at her for a long time. Then he released her and turned to walk forward. He stopped in front of the innermost wall. Suddenly he conjured a dermic seal. An array formation appeared on the white wall. Within seconds the entire wall began to open to reveal a hidden room. Why did you lock me up here? An angry female voice rang out from inside. A woman dressed in emerald green walked out. She glared at Xen Han. You better let me go. Don't think you're so great just because you're a celestial emperor. My master is Celestial Emperor Qinggu. If you dare to harm a single hair on my head, my master will never let you off. Little Xian. Xen Han looked at the woman in front of him in a daze. He reached out to hold her hand. But she slapped his hand away. Don't touch me. I've told you hundreds of times. My name is Hui Ling. I'm not your little Xian. And I'm not your wife. Xan Han did not get angry. Instead, he looked at her affectionately. You just don't remember. Soon, you'll remember your past life. What do you mean? Hui Ling paused. Xan Han smiled at her and pulled her back to the center of the room. He pointed at the woman in front of him. Do you remember her? Who is she? Hui Ling frowned. It's okay if you don't know her. I've cast a resurrection spell on her. Soon you'll understand everything. He immediately set up an array around Hui Ling's body and said anxiously, when you become her, I will remove the seal on her body. By then, not only will you remember everything but you will also be a Stygian immortal. Stygian immortal. Hui Ling exclaimed. She suddenly understood what he meant. You want to change our souls? No, I don't want to. She wanted to escape but she was trapped in the array. Don't worry, nothing will happen, Xan Han comforted her. He walked to Bai Qiao's side, lit the spirit-convening lamp and placed it at the edge of the array. He was just about to activate his immortal spell to change souls when Bai Qiao suddenly broke out of the array and rushed towards him. A sword formed from immortal chi flew towards him. Xan Han parried the attack with his palm, but the sword in front of him suddenly changed. Thousands of sword shadows flew towards him. Xan Han was shocked. He had no choice but to summon his weapon to block the attack. Bai Qiao did not continue. Instead, she took this opportunity to turn and rush out of the door. She was about to fly out of the door. Suddenly, an array lit up, sealing the entire door. There was a flash of lightning. Bai Qiao fell to the ground. She was already seriously injured. Now she spat out a mouthful of blood. But she did not collapse. Xan Han looked at the array that trapped her. It was stained with blood. The array had been broken. It looked like she had been secretly breaking the array. He could not help but feel surprised. I didn't expect you to improve so much after all these years. He laughed coldly and walked towards her. But, do you think you can escape? Bai Ti doesn't care about you anymore. No one will come to save you. As he spoke, he conjured a seal. A cold light flashed and a spell was formed. He was about to use it on the person on the ground. Suddenly he felt his hand tighten. Someone grabbed him and he could not move. The spell in his hand dissipated. A lazy voice rang out. Sorry, I'm here. Xan Han, Hui Ling. There was a moment of silence. Shining turned to look at the person on the ground. She waved and smiled. Shorty. Chapter 195. The person on the ground was stunned. His eyes widened as he stared at Shining, who had suddenly appeared. His originally clear eyes were instantly filled with tears, as if he could no longer suppress them. Tears gushed out of his eyes in an instant. Shining jumped. Why are you crying? The moment she said that, the person burst into tears. Wah! Divine immortal, sect master. She suddenly rushed over and hugged Xin Ying's thigh tightly. She cried loudly. Sect master, you recognized me, you really recognized me? Wah! She knew it was her. She looked completely different now. She had become someone else. But she could still recognize her at a glance. Xin Ying's mouth twitched. She saw the look in her eyes just now. It was hard not to recognize her. Don't cry. She lifted her leg but could not pull it away. That was why children were so troublesome. It was the same when they grew up. Yes, it's sect master. She nodded vigorously, but tears continued to fall from her eyes. It's you? Hui Ling exclaimed. A complicated expression flashed across her face. Why are you here? Shining turned to look at her. Just as she was about to speak, the immortal chi around her exploded. Then there was the sound of wind breaking. Xan Han, whose hand was being held by her, conjured an ice blade and slashed at her, trying to force her to retreat. Be careful. The person hugging Xin Ying's thigh cried out. Her tears finally stopped. Shining paused as the ice blade was about to land on her. She did not retreat. Instead, she raised her hand. In the next moment, blood splattered everywhere, and the bright red color splashed all over the ground. A scream filled the entire immortal palace. With a loud thud, half of Xan Han's hand fell to the ground. Shining looked at the severed hand on the ground, then at the person in front of her. She paused. I forgot to grab your hand. She did not expect it to break. Why did she have to use so much strength to slash it? Who are you? Xan Han's face was pale. He took a few steps back and conjured a few hand seals to stop the pain. He stared at the person in front of him warily. He could not escape her control just now. She even caused him to lose an arm. Damn it. Stop talking nonsense. We have to fight anyway. It's easier to talk after the fight. Xining scratched her head in frustration. Let's do it. Xian Han's expression darkened. He did not dare to be careless anymore. He activated all his immortal qi and created thousands of wind blades. He even summoned his intrinsic dermic artifact. No matter who you are, don't even think about leaving here today. For a moment, the entire room was filled with ice-cold wind blades. They were like sharp blades that sliced everything in the surroundings into pieces. The originally magnificent immortal palace was instantly turned into flying ash, revealing the sky above. Even the ground under their feet was split open by the wind blades. With a flick of his fingers, all the wind blades flew towards Xining. At the same time, Xian Han's figure flashed, his only hand holding a pure white immortal sword. He charged towards the person in front of him. Xining only felt a gust of wind, and the overwhelming wind blades slashed towards her. However, the moment they got close to her, they dissipated and hit her body. She didn't feel anything at all, only the hair on the side of her face fluttered a few times. What kind of move was this? Why was he blowing air at her? Was he trying to blow her away? Straight face, looking up at the person who was charging towards her again, Xining frowned. She took a step forward and reached out to grab the person's collar. Sorry, you have bad breath. With that said, she lowered her hand and slammed it down on the ground. Only to hear a rumbling sound, only to see a crack from beneath her feet, directly spreading downwards, the entire floating peak was instantly smashed into two halves. But she did not stop. She stepped to the side and grabbed the person who had already been smashed into the ground. She slammed him down again. Again and again, and again. History was always shockingly similar. Xining was in a bad mood. Because it was lunchtime and Chef was gone. 2 minutes later. She flung the person in her hand away and turned to the person behind her. Hey shorty. Master. The person behind her was stunned. He was obviously stunned by her overwhelming power. She was indeed the sect master. Go and keep that lamp. She pointed to the spirit-convening lamp not far away. If it's broken, Father Nyo will be angry. Yes. Xining finally reacted. She hurriedly ran over and picked up the lamp. Just as she was about to return, someone grabbed her by the ankle. Jiao. Xian Han did not know where he got the strength from, but he raised his bruised face. How could you do this to me? She stopped in her tracks. Something flashed across her eyes. Suddenly, she smiled warmly at the person on the ground. She was so beautiful that even the person on the ground was stunned. Xian Han. She took a deep breath, lifted her leg and aimed a kick at a certain part of him. F*CKU. Who the F*CK is your Jiao? I told you my name is Xian Tong. I've been disgusted by the two of you for more than 2 months. You still disgust me. You're disgusting. You're disgusting. She kicked him again and again. Celestial Emperor Xian Han, one of the 10 Celestial Emperors, was in so much pain that his body curled up like a shrimp. He let out a wail of pain. Xining, speaking of which, who taught this child? Stop. Hui Ling, who had been standing at the side, suddenly shouted. She looked at Xian Tong unhappily. He's already in such a state. Why do you have to be so overbearing? Aren't you being too vicious? Xian Tong frowned. Miss, he forced me to swap my soul first. Is he allowed to do evil, but I'm not? You're willing to swap your soul, but I'm not. But you're fine now, aren't you? Hui Ling looked at the person on the ground. She could not bear to see him like this. What's more, he's only doing this to find his wife. If you hadn't possessed his wife, he wouldn't have done this. The more she spoke, the more she felt that it made sense. Although she did not want to stay here, he had not touched her in the past few days. He even went along with her. Clearly, Celestial Emperor Xian Han was not an evil person. Miss, are you deaf? Xian Tong's frown deepened. I told you I'm not Bai Qiao. I don't care what grudges they have between them. I don't know why I'm in her body, but this has nothing to do with me. You? Hui Ling was at a loss for words. She looked worriedly at the person on the ground, but still stood in front of Xian Tong. Forgive and forget. I won't let you touch him again. Little Xian. Xian Han looked up at Hui Ling. He was touched. I knew it. Even though you've reincarnated, you still have me in your heart. He spoke with great emotion. He looked at Hui Ling as if she owned the whole world. But when he looked at her, his face swollen like a pig's head and his body bent like a shrimp, the scene looked comical. Xian Tong could not help but look away. It hurt her eyes. But Hui Ling did not seem to see it. She helped the person on the ground up, glaring at Xian Tong. Then she said sternly, Celestial Emperor, don't worry. My master will be here soon. He will make sure justice is served. The corner of Xian Tong's mouth twitched. She suddenly remembered something that Elder Lone Moon often said. MDZZ. Chapter 196. Little Xian, you're the only one in the world who cares about me so much. Xian Han's expression darkened. Yeah, I told you I'm not. Why do you have to? No, you must be. He tightened his grip on her hand and said seriously, as long as you come back to me, I don't care about anything, so, Xian Han, why do you have to? Before Hui Ling could finish her sentence, she was shocked. What are you doing? Suddenly, the array beneath them shone brightly and a pitch-black crack appeared behind them. A powerful suction force immediately emerged from the crack. Xian Han's eyes were filled with madness. We will not be separated. With that said, he hugged Hui Ling and turned to enter the crack. The crack grew larger and larger, sucking in everything around it. Even Xian Tong could not keep her balance. She could only summon her immortal sword and stab it into the ground. Oh. Hui Ling realized that he was trying to take her away. Her expression changed and she started to resist. Don't worry, it'll be fine, Xian Han comforted her. We're just leaving this place. Little Ling. A familiar voice rang out. Chingu had finally arrived. He was flying towards them on his sword. He stared in shock at the crack that had suddenly appeared. What's going on? He paused and turned to look at Xian Tong. He paused. He did not know why, but his heart was pounding. Who was she? Master, save me. Hui Ling's face lit up. She wanted to go over, but Xian Han held her tightly. Celestial Emperor Xian Han, what are you trying to do? Chingu snapped out of his daze. Seeing that the three of them were about to be sucked into the crack, he conjured a golden rope to pull them out. I'm going to save you now. With that said, he waved his hand and the rope flew out. With a whoosh, it wrapped tightly around Xian Tong. Chingu, Hui Ling, Xining. In the next moment, Hui Ling's face was filled with disbelief as she fell into the crack and disappeared without a trace. Qin Ji's expression was blank. He could not even react. However, the immortal sword that Xian Tong had conjured had already collapsed. The suction force in the crack was so strong that Chingu had not been able to pull Xian Tong back in time before he was pulled over. Seeing that the two of them were about to fall in, Xin Ying's figure flashed and she pulled them out, one in each hand. Everything happened too quickly. From the moment Xian Han summoned the crack, it had only been 3 breaths of time. Now the crack had closed. Sect Master. Xian Tong's heart skipped a beat. She did not know what tunnel Xian Han had opened, but she knew it was dangerous. He looked up at Xining and handed her the lamp. Fortunately, the lamp was fine. Keep it. Give it to Father Nyo later. She nodded and put it away. On the other hand, Chingu stared at Xian Tong in a daze. No one knew what he was thinking about. After a while, he said hesitantly, Miss, are you all right? Before he could finish his sentence, Xian Tong suddenly lifted her leg and kicked the area between Qinji's legs. Chingu was caught off guard. Although he had immortal qi to protect his body, he was still kicked so hard that his entire body bent forward. His hands covered an unspeakable part of his body. It's all your brainless disciple's fault. My sect master came personally to save us, but she sided with that disgusting scumbag. Don't let her harm others if she hasn't been taught well. Xining, was there something wrong with this little shorty? She was so cruel. Surprisingly, Chingu was not angry. He did not ask what had happened. Instead, he looked at Xian Tong with a conflicted expression. As if he was still in a daze? Sect Master Xian Han has already escaped. What do we do now? Xian Tong turned around, returning to her cute and obedient self. Let's go home first. Eat first. Yes, Sect Master. Xian Tong hurriedly summoned her flying sword and looked at Xining with shining eyes. She finally had a chance to fly with the Sect Master. She was happy. Suddenly, she felt that her wounds were no longer hurting. She jumped onto her flying sword and flew towards the exit of the Heavenly Palace. Shorty, who taught you that kick just now? Sect Master, it was Master Qi. Roasted chicken gal? Was she that cruel? Yes, Master Qi said that all men are bad. Xining, why did she suddenly want to light a candle? Xining bumped into Chef and Father Nyo at the entrance of the Heavenly Palace. Perhaps because Xian Han wanted to use the soul-swapping technique, there were not many immortals in the Heavenly Palace. They managed to get to the entrance unimpeded. Master. I Ching sped up. He heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Xining. Thank goodness he found her. Where did you go? Father Nyo glared at her angrily. He turned to look at Bai Qiao. Why did you bring her along? This is short. Xining explained. Elder Lone Moon. Bai Qiao immediately explained, I am Xian Tong. I don't know why I ended up in this body after the heavenly tribulation. Xian Tong. Lone Moon exclaimed. He thought for a moment and guessed what was going on. His expression darkened. Let's go back first. Why is Celestial Emperor Qinggu here? Qinggu paused. He turned to look at Xian Tong, who was guarding him like a thief. He did not know why he had followed them. Let's go back to the sect first. I Ching reminded them. Out of habit, he helped Xining onto his flying sword. Hearing the commotion, they knew without a doubt that Master had made a move. After all, this was Yi Shui's territory. The few of them nodded and flew away from the heavens beyond heaven. Invincible sect. Lone Moon glanced at the Xian Tong in front of him. Her body had recovered, but she looked uneasy. A moment later he said, Bai Qiao? She trembled and clenched her fists. They knew. Tell me what happened. I didn't want to take over her body. Seeing that they had recognized her, Bai Qiao had no choice but to explain. That day I used up all my dermic powers to save Xan Han. My primordial spirit was almost destroyed. In a moment of desperation I used the soul-swapping technique. I didn't think that I would be swapped with her. When she woke up, her body was too weak. When she heard that they were going to borrow the Luo Han stone, she wanted to know about Xan Han's condition. That was why she did not tell them the truth. Oh yes, Xan Han. How is he? Is he all right? Good. Of course he's good. Lone Moon laughed coldly. He's so good that he can swap souls with his predecessor. What? She paused. Lone Moon glanced at her and told her everything that Xian Tong had told him, word for word. The more he spoke, the paler Bai Qiao became. She looked like she was about to break down. A moment later, she shook her head vigorously. No, that's impossible. Xan Han would never do that to me. She had given up everything for him. How could he only care about avenging Yun Xian and not feel anything for her? It's up to you to believe it or not. Lone Moon rolled his eyes. He had no interest in this melodramatic story. Tell me, how do I swap you and Xian Tong back? Even Chu Xian and Lan Hua had not heard of the soul-swapping technique. They had heard of possession, but it involved swallowing the other person's soul. They had never heard of swapping bodies. That's impossible. Bai Qiao lay sprawled on the ground as if she had not heard his question. She muttered, he knew. I didn't want to possess Yun Xian's body. I don't even know what happened. That's why after I ascended, I returned to my own body. He said he didn't mind. I didn't kill her on purpose. I'm sick of these love brains. How could he say that he never loved me? I don't believe it. I don't believe it. She suddenly covered her face and burst into tears. But there was still a glimmer of hope in her eyes. He said that in this lifetime, he would marry no one but me. Yun Xian was only his junior sister for a few years. How could he have liked her? He only did this to me because he cultivated the heartless Tao. That's right. It's all the heartless Tao's fault. Everyone frowned as they watched Bai Qiao begin to deceive herself. Especially since she was using Xian Tong's body. Roasted Chicken Gal, who was standing at the side, clenched her fists so hard that her knuckles cracked. She could not help but step forward to punch Bai Qiao. I'm going to make things clear with him. Bai Qiao suddenly stood up. He must have liked me, not Yun Xian. Indeed not. Xining suddenly spoke. Everyone present was taken aback and turned their heads to look at her. What did she mean? Bai Qiao's eyes lit up. She looked like she had found someone who understood her. Little animal, answer a question for me first. What? Where did you learn the soul-swapping technique? Chapter 197. Bai Qiao paused. She did not understand what Xining meant. After a while she said, this technique was created by Xan Han when he brought me to immortality. He wanted me to return to my fox body. That's why he created this technique. In other words, this technique was taught to you by him? Bai Qiao nodded. Then, as if recalling something, she continued, that's because he had to endure double the heavenly tribulations to bring me to immortality. The body that I possessed in the lower realm was badly injured and could not recover. He had no choice but to create this technique. Oh? Xining turned to look at Chef. I Ching immediately understood what she meant. His expression darkened as well. Why are you asking this? Lone Moon and the others were confused. Self-created techniques are not that simple, I Ching said. I Ching said. His sword technique was also self-created, But that was the result of years of trial and error. Even now, it was constantly being improved. His sword technique was already so good, much less an immortal technique. What's more, not even the Celestial Emperor has heard of an immortal technique like the soul-swapping technique. As soon as he said this, everyone's expression changed. When Xan Han ascended, he was only an earth immortal. Yet, when Bai Qiao was seriously injured, he managed to create this soul-swapping technique. Yi Qing frowned. Unless he's a genius or he knew about this technique from the start. Shining interrupted. Impossible. Bai Qiao's expression changed. She seemed to sense what they wanted to say. She shook her head vigorously. He created this technique for me. He said that no matter what I became, he would love me. Why would he lie to me? Let me guess. Shining ignored her. She continued, you said that after you descended to the lower realm, you possessed that Xian's body for some reason. That means that only your soul descended to the lower realm. How does a normal soul descend to the lower realm? Everyone paused. Then they turned to look at Qinggu. Why are you looking at me? Qinggu looked confused, but he still answered, naturally, I enter the 3 realms of samsara and reincarnate as a human. But that was an accident. Bai Qiao's face grew paler. Even her body began to sway. What if it wasn't? Shining continued, a mortal realm cultivator accidentally discovered an immortal soul that had left its body and needed to be reborn. It just so happened that this cultivator knew the soul swap technique. Unfortunately, this soul was a woman. What was even more coincidental was that this cultivator had a beloved Tao companion who might not be able to survive the ascension. What do you think he'll do? Change souls. In an instant, everyone came to a realization, and their faces were filled with shock. Changing into a celestial body, avoiding the heavenly tribulation, and directly becoming a celestial. Even ascension was skipped, and they directly went to the celestial realm, and they were still Stygian celestials. Yes. Shining nodded. But this soul-swapping technique is flawed. You can't guarantee a complete success. So Yun Xian died in the process of exchanging souls. Lone Moon exclaimed. Xan Han went for wool and came home shorn. He could only pretend that he didn't know about this. Holy shit. He had never seen such a thing before. The reason why he needed the spirit convening lamp was because the soul exchange technique was flawed. Shining took a bite of her fruit and glanced at Bai Qiao and Xian Tong. I'm guessing that this flaw requires both parties to be extremely weak and their primordial spirits to succeed, right? That's why she accidentally swapped bodies with Little Tong during Little Tong's heavenly tribulation. Qi Qingyu exclaimed. At that time, Little Tong's primordial spirit was injured by the wildfire, and Bai Qiao's primordial spirit was also injured because she tried to save Xan Han. That was why the 2 of them successfully swapped bodies. Shining finished her fruit in 2 bites and switched to another one. She looked at Bai Qiao, whose face was as white as a sheet. Enunciating each word, she said, back then, you did not possess his wife's body. They had been scheming against you from the beginning. The one who was deceived for tens of thousands of years was not him, but you. Bai Qiao took a few steps back and could no longer stand steadily. She sat on the ground as if she had lost all her life. She did not make a sound, but tears flowed down her cheeks like floodwaters. Everyone around them could not help but sigh. Perhaps Bai Qiao herself had suspected this, but she was blinded by her love for so many years that she refused to see the truth. Now that they thought about it, Xan Han's claim that he was avenging his Tao companion did not make any sense. If he really loved that person called Yun Xian as much as he said, how could he not have recognized her for thousands of years? It was all because Bai Qiao was Bai Ti's daughter that he pretended not to know. Xan Han was not heartless because of the heartless Tao. The only person he loved was himself. He had given up on Yun Xian for the sake of ascension. Now he could give up on Bai Qiao too. Lone Moon looked at the despairing person on the ground and shook his head. It looked like he would not be able to get anything out of her today. He beckoned to Xian Tong and Yu Hong. Forget it. Bring her away. Tell Celestial Emperor Bai Ti about this and ask him to come and get her. Yes. Yu Hong responded. Then, together with Xian Tong, they helped the unconscious man up and left. Qi Qingyu and the other disciples also left. Qinggu as Xian Tong turned to look at the person following her. She frowned and said, "Get lost." Qinggu turned and sat back down. Shining, Yi Qing, Lone Moon, had this child really gone astray? Even the plot had changed. Where was the female lead supposed to be in love with the male lead? Why was the situation reversed? And shouldn't Qinggu be thinking of a way to save his disciple? Why did he follow her all the way back? Well, I guess we can't just swap Shen Tong and Bai Qiao back? Lone Moon coughed and looked at Chingu awkwardly. He could not accept the plot. If the soul-swapping technique could only be used when one's primordial spirit was damaged, they could not possibly beat the two of them up again. They could only wait for Bai Ti to come and see what the two of them would do when their parents were present. But at least we have a solution. What solution? Shining suddenly asked. What do you mean? That lung? It's Han Xn Han. The corner of Lone Moon's mouth twitched. Even if you can't remember, don't change it. Alright. If he was the one who started the soul swapping, aren't you curious why he took the green tea away? Everyone was stunned. Then they stood up in shock. That's right. If he was the one who orchestrated the whole thing. If he was not a loving person, why did he swap Hui Ling into Bai Qiao's body? He was already a celestial emperor. What reason did he have to risk offending Bai Ti to swap Bai Qiao's soul? Master. Shen Tong said that there was a strange aura coming from the crack that Xian Han opened. Yi Qing suddenly recalled. Can you tell what it is? Demonic qi. Before Shining could answer, Chingu finally reacted. He said, the demonic qi coming from the crack. Lone Moon, Yi Qing, everyone. Chapter 198. Bai Ti came very quickly. In less than 2 days he came to claim his daughter. Unlike the previous time when he was angry, he seemed to have aged a lot. He looked at Bai Qiao with a less tender and caring gaze. He was probably hurt by the other party's actions. Just as Lone Moon expected, the two of them could not be swapped back. Bai Qiao's injuries had healed and Shen Tong's primordial spirit had recovered. The success rate of soul swapping was too low. Moreover, it could not be used to locate the target. Who knew where the soul would end up? It was the same even with the spirit convening lamp. Although the spirit convening lamp could locate the target, it could only protect one person's primordial spirit from dissipating. In other words, if the primordial spirits were to be swapped, one of them would die. It was clear that when Xian Han wanted to swap the souls of Bai Qiao and Hui Ling, he did not think of letting Bai Qiao live. That was why he forced the soul swap even though he knew that it was not Bai Qiao in her body. Shen Tong felt a wave of fear as she thought about all this. Thank goodness. Thank goodness the sect master recognized her. Otherwise, she was filled with gratitude and excitement. She turned and quietly stuffed half the room full of potatoes, sweet potatoes, fresh flowers and other offerings. Shining, Yi Qing, radish. In the end, Bai Ti decided not to swap the souls. He would leave the two of them in their current state. Bai Ti would bring the new Bai Qiao back. Her cultivation level had been destroyed and she needed to cultivate again. She probably would not have the chance to come out and court death for 100 years. Shen Tong, who had turned from a human cultivator to a demon cultivator, was in a similar situation. Qi Qingyu would occasionally send her immortal qi to maintain her human form. But her body was not even that of a first-level demon. Surprisingly, Lone Moon did not object. He only requested that Bai Ti, Shen Tong, Bai Qiao and himself swear a heavenly Tao oath together. They would never use any means or methods to swap the two of them back. Bai Ti agreed. As soon as the oath was made, 4 bolts of lightning struck down from the sky, forming a heavenly Tao talisman on the 4 of them. Lone Moon, who had just agreed reluctantly, smiled like a businessman and turned to chase them away. Celestial Emperor Bai Ti, it's already time. Forgive me for not sending you off. This matter. Thank you for your help. You saved my son's life. Although Bai Ti had a fiery temper, he was not a fool. Although the swapping of souls was an accident, they had still saved his daughter. I will repay you handsomely in the future. After that, he brought Bai Qiao, who was still immersed in the shock, back to Bai Zhao. Lone Moon's smile grew even friendlier. Especially a few days later, when he received more than 10 storage bags full of gifts from Bai Zhao, his eyes narrowed into slits, just like Shen Tong's new form. The invincible sect onlookers who knew about it, unscrupulous merchants. He had clearly taken advantage of the other party, but he still extorted a large sum of money from them. Shen Tong and Bai Qiao seemed to be in a similar situation. One was a mortal and the other was a mortal fox. Bai Ti did not know, but Shining and the others knew. Xian Han had said before that Bai Qiao's cultivation level had not disappeared. It had been sealed by some unknown method. She was actually a Stygian immortal. So not only did Shen Tong gain her cultivation level for free, Lone Moon also extorted a large sum of money from her and made a good impression on her. But when the few of them examined Shen Tong's fox body, they encountered a problem. Because no one could find where the seal was. Her body indeed looked like a spirit fox that had just gained sentience. It was no wonder that even Bai Ti had not discovered the abnormality in his daughter's body. They studied it for a few days but could not find the seal. One day Radish, who came to deliver the dandelions and take away Xian Tong's flowers, suddenly said, "Hey, the seal on this fox's claws is the same as the spirit sealing contract that Brother Lan mentioned." The spirit sealing contract. Qin Gu was the first to react. That's a technique of the demon race. Everyone was shocked. No wonder they could not find it. It was a technique of the demon race. So they immediately brought Xian Tong to the back mountain to look for a certain god of fortune who had been refining pills for several months. Indeed, he saw the problem with Xian Tong's new fox body and solved it. Lone Moon was initially worried that if Qin Gu saw that Lan Hua was an invincible sect, there would be some conflict. That was why he did not let Lan Hua out of the back mountain these few days. But reality proved that Qin Gu had not thought of this at all. He looked at Xian Tong worriedly the entire time. He was even more anxious than the others about the seal being lifted. It was as if Xian Tong was not a disciple of invincible sect, but his disciple. Just as Xan Han said, once the seal was lifted, Xian Tong's immortal qi surged. Her cultivation level rose at a terrifying rate. It rose all the way to the Stygian immortal level. Apart from I Ching and Lone Moon, she became the person with the highest cultivation level in invincible sect. 8 more tails appeared on her body. She became a 9-tailed white fox. Streaks of white lightning could be faintly seen on his body. She was of the thunder element. Lone Moon's eyes lit up. He patted Xian Tong, who had already returned to human form. He said slowly, "From today onwards I will personally teach you swordplay. Thunder element. What a good seed for a sword cultivator. She must not let herself be led astray this time. To hell with body cultivators. Shining, I Ching, Father Nyo, do you still remember that she was the female lead?" Xian Tong paused. Although she was now a Stygian immortal, she still had to start practicing her sorcery. Her eyes lit up. She cupped her fists and knelt down. "Thank you, Elder." Being by Elder's side meant that she could see Sect Master all the time. She was happy. Qin Gu could not help but step forward. "Actually, I can get lost." "Oh." A certain male lead retreated silently. For some reason Xian Tong disliked this celestial emperor called Qin Gu. She had the urge to kick him the moment she saw him. Shining, I Ching, Lone Moon, it was as if he could hear the crying of the plot. Lone Moon cleared his throat and regained his composure. He told Lan Hua that Xan Han had indeed found the answer when he opened up the crack filled with demonic qi. "The bite of 10,000 voids." Lan Hua exclaimed. "What do you mean?" Lone Moon stepped forward. "Explain clearly." "It's a sorcery similar to a transportation array," Lan Hua explained. Lan Hua explained, "However, it's different from the teleportation array, which requires immortal stones and has a distance limit. The bite of 10,000 voids cuts through the void and can reach anywhere in an instant." "You mean to say that we have no way of knowing where he went?" "Not necessarily." Lan Hua could not help but pass a cup of hot tea to a certain foodie who was busy eating pastries. Then he continued, "The bite of 10,000 voids consumes a lot of demonic qi. The exit will also cause strange phenomena. We can check where strange phenomena have appeared in the immortal realm these few days and we'll know." Qin Gu suddenly frowned and looked at everyone. As if thinking of something, his expression became solemn. "I'm afraid, things are not that simple." Chapter 199. "What do you mean, Celestial Emperor?" Lone Moon asked. Qin Gu fell silent for a moment before answering. "Do you remember when I transformed into Ningxian and was planted with a demonic seed?" The few of them paused. They subconsciously looked at Xian Tong, who did not seem to notice anything. A moment later Lone Moon replied, "I remember. Does this have something to do with Xan Han?" "That's right." Qin Gu nodded. "I only remembered it now. Before I discovered the demonic seed, I was invited by him to go to the void and subdue an ancient beast. He said that the beast was found at the eastern border of Yishui, in a land that was sealed in ice all year round. He tried everything he could to chase it into the void. To prevent it from escaping again, he invited me to subdue it. I thought that the border of Yishui was connected to Fengcang, so that the beast would not be seen by Fengcang immortals. So I agreed. Could it be that it was a demonic beast?" Lone Moon was shocked. "I've only just come to my senses. That strange beast's body is pitch black. Moreover, its speed was extremely fast, so fast that no one could sense its aura. I thought it was special at first, but now that I think about it, it must be because the void is a place with chaotic immortal and demonic qi. I didn't notice that it was actually demonic qi." His frown deepened. Not long after I subdued that demonic beast, I was ambushed and severely injured. That was when I discovered the demonic seed in my body. You mean? Xan Han lured you there and planted the demonic seed in you? Lone Moon asked. Chingu was not sure. All these years he could not find the person who ambushed him, so he thought that the demonic seed was planted by that person. But when he thought about it, the other party had used an immortal spell. How could a person without demonic chi plant a demonic seed? He was a celestial emperor. The only person who could hurt him was another celestial emperor. At first he suspected Chu Xian. After all, among the 10 celestial emperors, only Chu Xian disliked him. Thinking of this, he subconsciously glanced at Lan Hua, feeling conflicted. But seeing how calm Shening and the others looked, he decided to put it aside. I don't care if it's true or not. But to be able to open the bite of 10,000 void, even if he isn't a demon, he should be extremely familiar with the demon race. Lan Hua continued, if he had been planning this since a long time ago, it would indeed be very difficult to find him. Everyone was put in a difficult position. Xian Han was too secretive. Who would have thought that as one of the 10 Sky Kings he would be entangled with Bai Qiao? Moreover, they didn't even know what he wanted to do. What is the Void Land? Shining suddenly asked. Exalted Goddess, that's a broken boundary in the west of the Bo Sea. Little Encyclopedia Chu Xian glared at Chingu and immediately explained, that's the only piece of wilderness in the Bo Sea, but it's close to the westernmost side of the immortal realm. It said that it's connected to chaos. Therefore, there was not a single blade of grass or living things growing inside. It was a place filled with all kinds of obstacles, devils and yin qi. Normally, no one from the immortal world would go to. Holy shit. He paused mid-sentence, his eyes widening. Xan Han, that rascal didn't really go there, did he? The few people in the hall also reacted, and their faces were full of surprise. That was really possible. Lan Hua said that opening the bite of 10,000 void would require a large amount of demonic chi and would cause a phenomenon. In the entire immortal realm, the only place that would cause a large amount of demonic chi and a phenomenon at the same time would be the Void Land. Yes or no, send a message to the Emperor of the Bo Sea. Send someone to the vicinity of the Void Land and ask. Lone Moon suggested, looking at Chu Xian and Chingu. Chingu nodded, turned and walked out of the hall, conjured a seal and sent the message. Perhaps as Chu Xian said, Chingu was very popular among the 10 Sky Kings. In less than 2 days, he received a reply from the Emperor of the Bo Sea. Surprisingly, there was no phenomenon in the Void Land. But the other party replied with an important piece of news. The Cloud Sea, which was connected to the Bo Sea, happened to have a phenomenon in the past few days. The seawater even flowed into the nearby Yishui continent. Even the Emperor of the Cloud Sea, Yingji, was helpless. But because the Cloud Sea was filled with aquatic beasts and spirits, it usually did not interact with the immortals of the other continents. He was not sure what exactly had happened. Lone Moon was confused. Another Cloud Sea was involved. He had no choice but to give up on the idea of going to the Bo Sea. Together with Chingu, who finally remembered that he had a disciple to save, and Boss Lan, the 5 of them turned and headed to the Cloud Sea. They could not be at ease until they got to the bottom of the matter with Xan Han. Back in Yishui, they were the ones who ruined his plan to swap souls. They were now enemies with him. Given this person's cunning, he might be plotting something else to deal with them. Invincible sect had already been dragged into this mess. Rather than waiting for death, they might as well take the initiative to attack. Chu Xian was guarding the sect. Nothing would go wrong. What's more, he had a feeling that things were not so simple. The few of them spent a few days flying to the Cloud Sea's territory. From afar, they could see a white waterfall falling from the sky. It looked like a ribbon hanging between heaven and earth. Water flowed endlessly into the Yunzhe continent below. It was the trio's first time here, so they subconsciously looked up at the sky above them, only to discover that the blue sky was constantly swaying with watery light. When they got closer, they could even see all kinds of spirit immortal beasts of various sizes swimming in the sky. No wonder it was called the Cloud Sea. It really was the sea that floated in the clouds. Wow! Shining could not help but exclaim at the sight before her. This water can't be, Before she could finish, I Ching and Lone Moon's expressions suddenly changed. They covered her mouth from left and right. Shut up. Please let the immortal citizens of the Cloud Sea go. Master, why don't you eat something first? Shining, Lan Hua and Chingu, who did not know what was going on, Lone Moon glanced at the waterfall falling from the sky. That must be the so-called anomaly, right? The few of them flew over. Lan Hua looked carefully at the waterfall in the sky and shook his head. There was no demonic chi here. Lonman's expression darkened. Then he turned and flew towards the entrance of the Cloud Sea. It looked like they could only look for the celestial emperor of the Cloud Sea to have a chat. The entrance was not far. After flying for about 10 minutes they saw the heavenly gate. Surprisingly, there were no immortals guarding the heavenly gate. There was only a huge stone tablet in the middle of the gate. On it, there was a row of eye-catching words written in bright red. Celestial Emperor's Edict. Male immortals and dogs are not allowed to enter. Everyone, what did this mean? How did male immortals offend the Celestial Emperor? Why would he use such a stone to block the entrance? I almost forgot that Celestial Emperor Ingji of the Cloud Sea is a female emperor, Qinggu suddenly said. Don't tell me, she got hurt like by Qiao? From her tone, it was obvious that she hated all men in the world. Then what should we do? Lan Hua frowned. Will she tell us anything about Xen Han? There's an array on the stone tablet. I Ching pointed in front of them. Lone Moon, holy shit, it's the silent Yang array. Can destroy all Yang Qi. How much does the Celestial Emperor hate men? Lan Hua, does that mean that only women can go in? I Ching, will the transformation technique work? Qinggu, no. The transformation technique cannot hide the Yang Qi of a male immortal. Why don't we let Radish turn into a woman and go in? Anyway, he can be a man or a woman. We haven't decided yet. Pui? I don't want to turn into a woman. Then what should we do? We can't possibly fight our way in, can we? We don't have any women here. Why don't we go in through the waterfall? Well, Xining, who had been silent for a long time, finally raised her hand. Have you all forgotten that I'm a woman too? The 5 of them, there was silence for 5 seconds. If you didn't mention it, we would have forgotten, Lone Moon said. Are you sure you look more like a woman than Radish? Xining, son of AB *TC. Chapter 200. Xining walked towards the stone tablet. There was a flash of light and she passed through it without encountering any obstacles. She held a yellow voice transmission talisman in her hand and a familiar voice sounded from it. Xining, can you hear me? Do you see the red array in front? Xining looked at the red light in front of her and nodded. Remembering that he could not see her, she replied, yes. Go straight into the array on the left. There will be an immortal stone in the middle. Lone Moon explained in a low voice. Do you see it? I see it. Very good. That's the switch to maintain the array. Remove the immortal stone first and turn off the array. Let us in. All right. We're here to ask about the situation, not to fight. Other than the immortal stone, don't touch anything else. Yes. Remember, it must be the array on the left. Don't go to the right. The array stone is there. If you take it, it will collapse. Before he could finish his sentence, he heard a loud rumble. The stone tablet that was originally tightly blocking the heaven gate collapsed with a crash and shattered into pieces on the ground. Amidst the dust, they could faintly see a certain person holding an array stone in front of them. The 4 people and 1 Radish, air. Xining looked at the immortal stone in her hand. Is it off? Flip's table? Off your ass. The damn array was collapsing. Lone Moon was so angry that his liver was hurting. Do you feel uncomfortable if you don't destroy something? It's fine if you have no sense of direction, but you can't even King tell left and right. Isn't this the left? It was clearly the left hand, the hand that held the bowl. You're facing us now. Of course it's the left. I'm talking about the direction you came in from. Do you understand? You're blaming me? Who are you? How dare you trespass into Cloud Sea Heavenly Palace? A shout sounded. Dozens of immortals flew over from afar, each holding an immortal weapon. They surrounded the few of them in an instant. The strange thing was they were all female immortals. The leading female immortal looked at the broken stone tablet on the ground. She frowned and glared at the few people at the door. Where did these arrogant people come from? How dare they destroy the Celestial Emperor's holy oracle stone? Capture them. With that said, she waved her hand. The surrounding immortals immediately stepped forward, ready to take action. Wait. Qinggu immediately took 2 steps forward and released the suppressive aura of a Celestial Emperor. He said, I am Qinggu. I have something important to discuss with Celestial Emperor Ingji. Feng Tsang's Emperor? The female immortal was shocked by his immortal aura and took a step back. Her expression changed as she scanned the group. The Cloud Sea has never interacted with other continents. Even the Emperor of Feng Tsang should not destroy our Imperial Edict Stone for no reason. This? Chen Ge glanced at Xining, who was stuffing the array stone into I Ching's hand and munching on a fruit. His mouth twitched and he had no choice but to brace himself and explain, "This is a misunderstanding. We saw that there was no one guarding the heavenly gate and could not find anyone to pass the message. That was why he wanted to undo the array formation and find an immortal to report to. I didn't expect to accidentally destroy this formation." The female immortal was unmoved. She looked at them warily and said, "I don't care who you are. Our emperor has ordered that all male immortals are not allowed to enter the Cloud Sea Heavenly Palace. Otherwise, they will be killed without mercy." As she spoke, she waved her hand. The immortals around them closed in once again. Just as they were about to start fighting, a male voice suddenly sounded. "Exalted Immortal Zhu Yun, what happened?" The next moment, someone landed beside the female immortal. It was a male immortal dressed in blue. He wore a purple gold crown on his head and one hand was behind his back. Out of habit, his brows were slightly furrowed and he looked exceptionally stern. His entire body was surrounded by thick immortal qi. His face in particular looked somewhat familiar. Why is this solitary young array?" He looked at the rubble on the ground and his eyes flashed with surprise. Subconsciously he raised his head and said, "Isn't this Celestial Emperor Qinggu? Why do you have the time to come?" Halfway through his words he suddenly saw something. His eyes widened and his solemn expression disappeared in an instant. His entire body seemed to be ignited with monstrous anger, and even his voice rose several octaves. "Lan Hua." Boss Lan's expression changed as well. He took a step forward and said hesitantly, "Brother Yu, why are you here? You still have the cheek to come here." He was interrupted before he could finish speaking. The other party raised his hand and summoned his weapon. "I'm going to kill you, you bastard." With that said, he rushed toward Lan Hua in a flash. The two of them started fighting. Everyone was left dumbfounded. What was going on? Why were the two of them fighting all of a sudden? Celestial Emperor. Lone Moon could not help but look at Qinggu. "May I know who this Celestial Emperor is?" "He's Celestial Emperor Lan Yu from Yunzhe," Qinggu replied. "Oh." The other three people and one radish nodded in unison. So this was the younger brother who had tricked Lan Hua back then. But from the way he looked like he wanted to tear Boss Lan into pieces, it was obvious that there was more to this than met the eye. They could smell the stench of dog blood. "Chef, did you bring any melon seeds?" Xining asked. "Yes, master." "Do you want sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds or watermelon seeds?" "How about all of them?" "Yes, master, no problem, master." Lone Moon, Qinggu. Speaking of which, wasn't Lan Hua supposed to be their teammate? Was it really okay to watch the show like this? The two Lan brothers fought for a few hours. No one knew who was giving in to who. The two of them seemed to be attacking each other fiercely, but none of them was defeated. It seemed like the battle was going to drag on indefinitely. Even Qinggu had to explain clearly to the female immortal who was guarding the heavenly gate just now. Xining had already finished 3 bags of melon seeds, but the two of them were still fighting. Lone Moon looked at the sky and nudged the person beside him. "Xining, go and persuade them." Xining hesitated. "Are you sure I should go?" She was about to get up. Lone Moon immediately thought of the destroyed heavenly gate. The corner of his mouth twitched. He pulled Xining back. "Forget it. Yiqing, you go. Make them stop." Although the cheat was useful, he was afraid that it would not be able to be stopped. Yiqing nodded and passed the melon seeds in his hand to Xining. In a flash he joined the battle. In an instant, a rain of swords appeared in the sky. With an overwhelming force, the swords pounced on the two brothers who were already tired from fighting. "Sword Immortal. Who are you?" "Holy shit, Yiqing, what are you doing?" Why was he fighting him as well? Yiqing did not answer. Instead, he changed his hand and his sword moved even more fiercely. The sky full of swords immediately turned into a huge sword and directly slashed towards the two of them. The two of them who had been fighting for a few hours had no way of dodging it. Just as the sword was about to slash down, the blade suddenly turned and became the body of the sword, slapping towards the two of them. With a loud thud, the two of them were slapped down and smashed into the crowd. It was the kind where their faces hit the ground, raising a cloud of dust. The two of them who had been fighting for a few hours without being injured, lost their immortal qi. In an instant, their faces were scratched by the gravel on the ground. Yiqing landed back on the ground and said calmly, "All right, it's stopped." Qinggu, Lone Moon, everyone. Lone Moon frowned. This was a stop. This was a beating, wasn't it? Forget about Lan Yu, wasn't Lan Hua their teammate? It looked like he was hit harder than the other party. This guy was doing it on purpose, right? He just wanted to beat Lan Hua, right? Chapter 201. Lan Hua. Lan Yu sat up first. Although he had no energy left, he glared at the person in front of him. You're still the same as before, despicable and shameless. You even found a helper. How am I despicable and shameless? Lan Hua was also full of anger, but he was too tired to fight. The two of them could only argue. Weren't you the one who caused me to become a demon? So what if I became a demon? Lan Yu was even angrier. Just based on what you did to me, you deserve to die 1,000 times over. I should not have let you off that year. What did I do? Lan Hua glared back. You're my only brother. I taught you how to cultivate, protected you when you ascended, and even handed the entire Yinzhe continent to you. What did I do wrong? What? You still have the cheek to ask me? He suddenly laughed coldly and struggled to get up. He looked like he wanted to bite Lone Moon. Don't you know what you've done? Tell me. What exactly did you do? About Wen Qin, do you dare to say you didn't do it on purpose? Wen Qin? Lan Hua hesitated. Who's that? You bastard. Lan Yu exploded. He rushed over, forgetting all immortal spells and sword techniques. He grabbed Lone Man's neck. You're still pretending? Are you even human? The corner of Lone Man's mouth twitched. He gave Chingu a look. The two of them stepped forward at the same time and pulled the two of them apart. They did not forget to stretch out their long legs to kick each other. A battle between two celestial emperors had turned into a quarrel between two shrews. Even the girls who were guarding the heavenly gate were stunned. Was this really an celestial emperor? Let go of me. Lan Hua shouted as he struggled. I want to ask myself why I'm not human today. Let him tell me what's going on with Wen Qin. What did you do that was human? Lan Yu retorted. You still have the cheek to ask Wen Qin? She was supposed to be my Dao partner. How dare you say you don't know her? Dao partner? Lan Hua was stunned. When did you have a Dao partner? Haven't you always been alone? It's all because of you. Lan Yu was so angry that his eyes were red. I've been with Wen Qin for 3,000 years and we've been through so much. If it weren't for you, she wouldn't have abandoned me during our dual cultivation ceremony. I only want to marry you. Every day, I would guard the place where you were in seclusion to express my longing for you. This time Lan Hua was really stunned. His face was blank. There's such a thing? Recalling carefully, he remembered that there was a time when he was in seclusion. It was quite noisy outside every day, so he had no choice but to set up an isolation array formation. Could it be that the person outside was that Wen Qin? I don't know about this. I don't even know Wen Qin. All right. Just pretend that you didn't mean it. Lan Yu took a deep breath and asked again, then how do you explain Yunyu, Rushuang and Xiaojun? Ha! Lan Hua was even more confused. Oh, them? You're still pretending. Yunyu is my cousin who grew up with me. Rushuang is my betrothed in the lower realm. Xiaojun is my junior sister. How dare you say you don't remember any of them? I really don't remember. Shut up. I've given you a chance, but you've ruined my marriage over and over again. It would have been fine if you treated them sincerely, but you played around with their feelings. You coaxed them to leave me and they gave their hearts to you, but you didn't marry them. You're a scum. Oh, everyone exclaimed. They instantly understood what was going on, and vaguely felt that Lan Yu was shrouded in a verdant grassland. They all turned to look at the culprit. Why are you looking at me? Lan Hua was so angry that he stomped his feet. I didn't do it. Ever since I came to the lower realm, I've been cultivating. If I'm not in seclusion, I'm training. I've never heard of the people he mentioned. I have no impression of them at all. Not to mention abandoning them. Ever since he was young, the only thing he was passionate about was cultivation. Why would he have any feelings? He had even less contact with women. The only girls he remembered, apart from his mother, were Good Heart and the girls from Invincible Sect. He really did not know who Lan Yu was talking about. What about Shueji? Lan Yu continued to ask. Don't tell me you've forgotten about her too? Shueji, that sea rabbit demon? Lan Hua was stunned. He nodded. He remembered. Isn't that your pet? What happened to her? Lan Yu especially treasured that little demon. He brought it with him all the way to the heavenly realm. When he became a demon, that little demon was already an exalted immortal. What happened? If you hadn't told it nonsense, she would have become like that. Become like what? You know that sea rabbits have no gender. They only choose their gender when they decide on a Dao companion. If you hadn't told it nonsense. Lan Yu gritted his teeth. She would have become a man. Wow. Did it have to be so exciting? The onlookers were all stunned. There was such a development. He was the most pitiful little brother in the world. Lan Hua was also surprised. He knew that Lan Yu liked that sea hair. He became a man. How can this be? He stopped mid-sentence as he suddenly remembered something. It seemed like a few thousand years ago, there was a person who asked him with an awkward expression, "Is it better to be a man or a woman?" As a pure man, he naturally hesitated to choose a man. He was strong and resistant. How good would that be? Could it be that the person who asked him that question was a sea rabbit? His face instantly turned pale. Lan Yu was getting angrier. He had raised his wife for so long. But because of one sentence from him, she became a man. Every time he thought of this, he wanted to tear him to pieces. It had been like this since the lower realm. Once he fell in love with a girl. As soon as his brother came out of seclusion, the girl would immediately fall in love with someone else and dump him. Once or twice was fine, but every time, it was like this. You stole your wife time and time again. I'm already letting you off easy by just letting you become a demon. Brother you? Lan Hua was at a loss. I didn't know about this. Why would I think of her? Say something for me. I really didn't do anything. He quickly looked at the four people and the radish beside him. In an instant, the four people and the radish stepped back. Even Chingu, who was holding on to Lan Yu, let go. They pretended not to know each other. You. Hey. Isn't this betrayal too obvious? Lan Yu, who had finally recovered some of his immortal power, took 2 steps forward. What else do you have to say? Lan Hua was speechless. The four people and the radish retreated a few more steps to avoid suspicion. They stood behind Lan Lu. No, Lan Yu. Emperor Lan Yu, let's do it. I didn't see anything. I know what it feels like to be cheated. Go, don't stand on ceremony. Do you need a weapon? I have one. Do you want some melon seeds? You'll only have the energy to fight when you're full. Lan Hua, that's enough. Whose teammate was he? He was innocent. Apart from that sea rabbit demon, he hadn't spoken to anyone else. Ahua. Suddenly, a woman's voice was heard. Her tone was so gentle that it penetrated into the bones. Lan Yu, who was about to attack, shuddered. Everyone, they could vaguely hear the green hat +1. Chapter 202. A strong floral fragrance wafted into his nostrils. Flower petals filled the air as a figure descended from the sky. Her hair was combed into a bun with a gold and jade hairpin on her head. She held a peony chiffon fan in her hand and wore a moon-white silk dress embroidered with gold. She looked very graceful. He looked over with some excitement. Ahua, is that you? Her voice was as gentle as water, as if it was filled with indescribable emotions. Even her eyes were slightly watery. I knew it. I knew you were still alive. Ahua. With that, she walked over quickly as if trying to grab his hand. Lan Hua immediately jumped away and dodged. What are you trying to do? He had not recovered from the shock of what Lan Yu had just told him. Now that he saw a woman, his heart jumped. He subconsciously stepped to the side and hid behind Shining. The female immortal faltered, her eyes filled with hurt. Ahua, do you still resent us for joining forces with the other celestial emperors to attack you? As she spoke, a teardrop fell. That pitiful look could move any man. But, you treated me that way back then. I was so angry. Hey, don't come any closer. If you come any closer, I'll hit you. Lan Hua became even more cautious. The female immortal was even more hurt. Blue and Green, on the other hand, snorted coldly. They looked like they were already used to it. Ahua, are you really not willing to forgive me? The female immortal cried even harder. All these years, I've always believed that you were still alive. I've always been waiting for you. As long as you come back, I can pretend that the past never happened. Hey, don't spout nonsense. What past? What past do we have? The female immortal stiffened. She looked at him in disbelief. Ahua, how could you do this to me? I did not dare to betray you back then, but this was because you betrayed me first. I've regretted it for thousands of years. I've even given you the most precious thing in my life. What most precious thing? Lan Hua looked confused. The female immortal cried even harder. I've even given you my first and only time. The crowd, oh, this is the gossip of this region. What first time? I didn't. Wait, why are you looking at me like that? He didn't do it at all. I'm warning you, don't think that just because you're a woman, I won't do it. I don't even know you. Who are you? The female immortal's body swayed, her face filled with grief. You don't even want to acknowledge me? Naturally, the onlookers looked at them as if they were looking at trash. Hoo. Believe me, I really don't know her. Hua, don't call me that disgusting. Who the hell are you? In the past, it was clearly our first time. Shut up. Who the F***ck had their first time with you? Stop slandering me. Lan Hua was about to explode. His face was flushed red and he shouted at the top of his lungs, I never had my first time. I'm still a virgin. A virgin. Everyone, oh, I'm telling the truth. Thinking that they didn't believe him, Lan Hua became anxious. Believe me, I don't have a Tao companion, and my primordial yang hasn't even leaked out. I'm a virgin. I'm a virgin, all right. With that said, perhaps because he was being forced into a corner, or perhaps because of the radish's influence, he lifted the hem of his robe, looking like he was about to take off his pants to prove his innocence. His movements were too fast, and in order to make everyone believe him, he shouted every word. In an instant, the entire heavenly gate reverberated with his voice. I'm a virgin, a virgin, a virgin. The four people and the radish, Lan Yu, the female immortal, the immortals. Finally, it was Qinggu who reacted first. He pressed down on Lan Hua's hand that was about to take off his pants and urged, Celestial Emperor Lan Hua, we believe you. We believe you, all right? Don't be rash, there's a group of female immortals standing here. Even the female immortal who had just appeared was stunned by his actions. Her mouth was agape for a long time. Cough. Lone Moon also regained his composure. After all, he was the one who brought the boss here. He felt bad if he did not speak up for him. Fellow immortal, I wonder what happened between you and Lan Hua in the past. Can you explain it clearly? I don't know her. Just as he finished speaking, Lan Hua immediately added. He even glared at the female immortal. He looked like he would fight her to the death if she dared to speak nonsense again. If you really don't recognize him? Lan Yu, who was standing at the side, tooted coldly. The disdain in his eyes deepened. He obviously knew who this female immortal was, but the strange thing was that when he looked at her, he did not look very happy. Instead, he looked a little stiff. Only a ghost would recognize her. Lan Yu's eyes turned even colder. He said with some satisfaction, He is Celestial Emperor Ingji of this Cloud Sea. Everyone was shocked. They were too engrossed in the gossip just now. Only now did they realize that this female immortal was really a Celestial Emperor. You should remember his other name? Lan Yu's lips curved into a smile. He said word by word, Xueji. The four people and the radish, the immortals, Lan Hua. This information was a little too much. Wasn't Xueji raised by Lan Yu? Didn't he make his sea rabbit demon a cuckold? When did he become the Celestial Emperor of Cloud Sea? Nonsense. Lan Hua was also in disbelief. It's not like I haven't seen that sea rabbit demon's human form before. You just said that he chose to become a male. Wait a minute. Before he finished speaking, his eyes widened as he looked at the female immortal in front of him. Come to think of it, this female immortal seemed a little too tall, and her body was a little too muscular. On her neck there was a throat, an Adam's apple. This charming, gentle, and beautiful person who even had a special effect of fresh flowers on her entrance was a man. Lan Hua's face turned pale. His legs turned to jelly. He almost hugged the heavenly pillar beside him as he trembled. Celestial emperors are really scary. I want to go back to Invincible Sect to refine pills. After Xueji chooses his gender, he will naturally transform again. Lan Yu looked like he was watching a show as he explained, that day he admired you, that's why he asked for your opinion. He spent so many years before he succeeded in brainwashing him into choosing to become a female. In the end, with one sentence he changed him into a male. Yet for thousands of years, Ingji had already gotten used to the lifestyle of a female. There was no way he could change it. Ahua. Xueji, no, Celestial Emperor Ingji was still looking at Lan Hua affectionately. We sea rabbits only have one chance to choose. This is really my first and only time. You have to believe me. So this was the first time he was talking about. Lan Hua's face darkened. He took a deep breath, braced himself and stepped forward. Sea rabbit. Xueji. No. Celestial Emperor Ingji, I didn't make things clear to you back then. It was my fault. But I really didn't know what you meant. What's more, I've only met you less than 5 times, right? You almost killed me once. Why don't we call it even? We're all men anyway. I don't mind, but I mind. He looked like he had no regrets. Lan Hua felt an urge to vomit blood. He turned to Lone Moon and said, Where's the bag you used to put radish in? What? Put me in it too, please. If this went on, he would be disgusted to death. Lone Moon, I Ching, Shining. Chapter 203. The only female celestial emperor of the 10 celestial emperors had become a trap. The 4 of them and one radish all had strange expressions on their faces. Lan Hua was in a worse state. When he found out that the trap had other intentions for him, he almost broke down. Especially after being stared at by Ying Ji for 4 hours. It was as if her eyes were glued to him. Lan Yu seemed very happy to see this. He looked as if he was relieved to see that she was finally getting her comeuppance. From the moment they entered the heavenly gates, Lan Hua had been holding on to Radish the entire time. He followed Shining warily, as if he would lose his integrity if he slowed down. Celestial Emperor Xan Han? The few of them explained why they were here. Ying Ji, who had finally recovered from her daze, paused. You're saying that he has something to do with demons? A living demon is sitting right here. There are other demons in the immortal realm. What's so strange about that? Lan Yu snorted. He glared daggers at Lan Hua. Lan Hua's mouth twitched. He did not retort. That's not why we're here. Qin Gu frowned and explained worriedly, if he could plant a demonic seed in me, he could naturally do the same to the other celestial emperors. He must have other plans. Moreover, no one knew who was behind him. Then why are you here? Ying Ji asked. We heard that there was a strange phenomenon in the Cloud Sea, Lone Moon explained. When Xan Han escaped, he used a spell that produced large amounts of demonic qi. It also caused a strange phenomenon. That's why we're here to investigate. As soon as he finished speaking, Ying Ji and Lan Yu were stunned. A strange expression flashed across their faces. Then you've come for nothing, Lan Yu replied coldly. The strange phenomenon in the Cloud Sea was not caused by demonic qi. Even Lan Yu looked away curiously. It wasn't? A moment later, Ying Ji said, Ying Ji could not help but glance at Lan Hua. Born in the sea would form a contract with the Cloud Sea Celestial off his body and turned to hide behind them. He could also be considered the celestial Thearchus contracted beast. The strange phenomenon in the Cloud Sea was the Cloud Beasts hadn't been born yet. Beasts in the sea. That's why Cloud Beasts are still young. They're only around 5,000 years old. Throwing a tantrum meant poking a hole in the sky, as if recalling something. Did the ancestors know that the Lan family was so childish? In the past, the Cloud Beast would not easily leave the Cloud Sea. The Cloud Beast is the embodiment of the Cloud Sea of clouds. Ying Ji explained, although it had a spiritual body incarnation, once it left, different from the other continents. It wouldn't be able to escape. It is still an ocean floating in the sky. More than half of the Cloud Sea. The reason why this place was like this was because of the presence of the Cloud Beast in the sea. Still a child. Every million years, it wants to leave the clouds would give birth to sentience. Lone Moon asked in a low voice. That would be the Cloud Beast. So there was a naughty child here control all living beings in the sea. Not only that, even the immortals of the Cloud Sea depend on them to survive. He looked even more confused. So that's how it is. Celestial Emperor Lan Yu here because of this. But that phenomenon. He turned to look at Lan Yu. Clearly a hole in the sea. Indeed, Lan Yu was frowning as well, as if he really didn't know what to say. A moment later, he gritted his teeth and stood up. You guys, come with me to take a look. You'll know. Everyone looked confused. But they were here for the phenomenon. Although Celestial Emperor Ying Ji said it had nothing to do with the demon race, it was better to take a look. So they didn't object. They stood up and followed him out. Ying Ji led the group towards the east. Below them was a blue sea. They could faintly see the bottom of the sea. There were lush forests and mountains. It was the Cloud Sea indeed. They reached their destination in less than 10 minutes. Lone Moon looked around. This was indeed the location of the phenomenon. But when they were below the Cloud Sea, they saw a waterfall that connected the sky. Here they were above the Cloud Sea. All they saw was a huge whirlpool in the middle of the sea. There was a golden array above it that led straight to the bottom of the sea. It seemed to be blocking something. There were some immortals guarding the surroundings. But compared to the group of female immortals at the heavenly gate, the ones guarding here were all male immortals. And their cultivation levels were not low. They were all exalted immortals and above. There were even young emperors and immortal emperors. All of them looked flustered. They were trying to persuade the whirlpool below them. Just as the few of them got closer before they could hear clearly, a huge wave suddenly rose from the sea. It formed the shape of a fish's tail and slammed towards the immortals in front of them. The few of them hurriedly dodged. But before they could react, a few of them were slammed into the water. Fellow immortals, you saw it too, Ying Ji said helplessly. Ying Ji said helplessly, the Cloud Beast insisted on going out. It even smashed a hole in the Cloud Sea. That's the reason for the phenomenon. It's all thanks to Emperor Lan Yu's help. He set up this array to stop it. But these arrays won't last much longer. He could not help but look at Lan Hua. His eyes flashed. He said with some anticipation, Ah Hua, you're the most proficient in spells. I wonder if you can. I can't help you. Lan Hua immediately took a step back. The Cloud Sea was obviously one with the Cloud Beast. If he repaired this hole, it would create another hole. Why did the Cloud Beast insist on going out? Qinggu could not help but ask. Spirit beasts like this should have a sense of territory. They would not move easily. Because, Yingji was just about to explain when a childish voice sounded from the bottom of the water. It traveled to everyone's ears. You ugly things, let me out. I want to go find a pretty big sister. Yingji, Lan Yu, the people from Invincible sect froze. This voice, this tone. Suddenly, everyone's eyes fell on a certain radish. Why are you all looking at me? A certain plant on Lan Hua's shoulder looked confused. It turned to see Shining looking over. Its eyes lit up. It plucked the dandelion off its head and handed it over. Little big sister. This is for you. I Ching, Lone Moon, Lan Hua, Qinggu, so all your Cloud Beast incarnations are like this? Get lost. The radish's heart broke. Chapter 204. Ugly, it's you again. The few of them had just landed on top of the whirlpool when the voice sounded again, as if it had sensed something. Compared to the mischievous voice from before, there was real anger in it this time. In an instant, a column of water rushed towards Yingji. You liar, how dare you come over? Yingji seemed to be used to it. With a wave of his hand, a defensive array appeared and blocked the column of water. Unfortunately, it was not over. Huge waves in the shape of fish tails appeared on the surface of the sea. Wave after wave they began to attack indiscriminately. Scram, you stupid liar. Yingji looked at the immortals who had been trying to persuade them. Now they had all fallen into the water. Yingji looked at the crowd apologetically. She had no choice but to retreat a few miles away. Only then did the waves on the sea stop. Celestial Emperor Yingji, why did the Cloud Beast do this? Qinggu asked in a low voice. It was obvious that the attack had been aimed at Yingji. However, the Cloud Beast was supposed to be his contracted immortal beast, so it shouldn't have attacked him. This. Yingji's expression changed. He did not know how to explain. After a while, he said, this is a misunderstanding. With that, he subconsciously looked in Lan Hua's direction. His eyes seemed to be filled with resentment and some grievance. Lan Hua felt goosebumps all over his body. Let me explain. Lan Yu saw that he really could not speak. With a sigh, he told him everything that had happened between the Cloud Beast and Yingji. The Cloud Sea was different from the other 3 seas and 6 continents. Because of the special environment, anyone who could become the Emperor of the Cloud Sea not only had to be a celestial emperor, but also had to be recognized by the Cloud Beast. After all, the Cloud Beast was the Cloud Sea. If one wanted to live here, one had to get a property certificate. The contract with the Cloud Beast was equivalent to the property certificate of the sea. Only one Cloud Beast was born every few million years. When it matured, it would be as powerful as a celestial emperor. When Yingji first started cultivating, there were no new Cloud Beasts in the Cloud Sea. Although they did not interact with the other continents, it was not as strict as it was now. Although Yingji's original form was also of the water race, before he became a celestial emperor, he had always been by Lan Yu's side in his human form, so everyone thought that he was a celestial being. Even now, the other continents thought that the celestial emperor of the Cloud Sea was a human cultivator and not a demon immortal. In addition, the Cloud Pool and the Cloud Sea were very close to each other, so most of the Cloud Sea floated above the Cloud Pool continent. Aquatic creatures naturally like to stay close to water sources, so it was only natural that Yingji would often run from Yunzi to Yunhai to cultivate. But after the Cloud Beast threw a tantrum, its real body hid in the Crystal Palace in the deepest part of the Cloud Sea. It wanted to break through the Cloud Sea and escape. Usually, it would only create an avatar to come out of the water to cause trouble. To enter the Crystal Palace, one has to be an exalted immortal. So that was it. No wonder the Cloud Beast did not come out despite the waves. Its real body was at the bottom of the sea. All the exalted immortal demon immortals in the Cloud Sea tried to persuade it, Yingji continued. But they were all chased out. What? Yingji's mouth twitched. Said they were ugly. Everyone, Lone Moon subconsciously looked up at Yingji's face. To be honest, if one ignored some of his masculine features, Yingji's face could really be described as stunning. What's more, Yingji's eyes were more feminine, and he was dressed in female clothes. It was no wonder that the Cloud Beast would despise other female immortals for being ugly. There was no one left in the Cloud Sea. I had no choice but to remove the restrictions on the Cloud Sea. I wanted to invite all the female immortals in the world to come and give it a try. Yingji frowned. The immortals of the Cloud Sea have never interacted with other continents in the past. It was not easy for some of them to come and give it a try. Not only were they all male immortals, but they all had ulterior motives. It was very annoying. Was that why he set up that sign at the heavenly gates? That's why this matter has not been resolved. Ingji frowned deeply. He was about to ask the few of them if they knew any female exalted immortals that they were familiar with. Xining, who had been chewing on a fruit, suddenly spoke up. Why don't I try? She was quite experienced in teaching naughty children. You? The moment she finished speaking, Lone Moon started to mock her out of habit. Forget it. Didn't Celestial Emperor Ingji say it already? The cloud beast has high standards for looks. Xining tilted her head. Am I not good looking? Lone Moon rolled his eyes and turned to look at her face. Are you good looking or not? Don't you have a... Before he could finish speaking, his eyes were fixed on the familiar yet strange face in front of him. His voice seemed to be stuck in his throat. This was the first time he was looking at her face in such a way. From a man's point of view, she seemed pretty. Chapter 205. She had a chubby little face and a cherry-like mouth. Her eyes, which had always been lazy and lifeless, were wide open at this moment. The corners of her eyes were slightly raised, and her snow-white skin was so smooth that it seemed as if water could be squeezed out of it. There were even 2 strands of a hoge on her forehead that were swaying back and forth. She was not as gorgeous as Qingyu, nor was she as gentle and beautiful as Ingji, but surprisingly cute. Very cute. The extremely cute kind. *degree***. Lone Moon felt a thump in his heart as if he had been stabbed. It had nothing to do with his feelings, but he felt a sense of relief. Holy shit. Why didn't he realize that Xining was actually so good-looking? Why did he feel the urge to snatch her away and make her his daughter? Degree, what's wrong? Everyone looked at Xining, confused. She suddenly turned around and pressed her hand against her chest, taking deep breaths. I Ching stepped forward worriedly and pulled Xining over to take a closer look at her face. Master, your face is not... His voice trailed off and his whole body froze. His usually serious face seemed to have been painted with a layer of red paint. In an instant it turned red. He stared blankly at the face in front of him, and a loud thumping sound came from his chest, as if something was about to rush out of his body. He never knew that Master was actually so good-looking. Hey, what are you doing? Seeing the 2 of them suddenly stunned, the others thought that there was really something wrong with Xinying's face. They all stepped forward and looked at Xinying's face seriously. Qinggu, Sect Master Shen, why are you, Lanhua, good heart, you're not? Holy shit. Ingji, fellow immortals, why are you so cute, Radish, get lost. You're not allowed to look, little missy is mine. Lanyu, sister, how old are you? Do you have a Dao partner? Do you like Celestial Emperors, the younger ones? Get lost. 4 I Ching kicked a certain spare tire specialist with the surname Lan away and pulled out his sword at the same time. Xining? Motherf *Ker, did they not see what she looked like except for Radish? In the center of the Sea of Clouds in the Crystal Palace, a short figure was squatting on the golden magic array in the middle of the hall. He was holding something in his hand and poking it with force. Every time he poked the golden magic array, specks of golden light would splatter out, and the talismans on the ground would darken a little. As he smashed it, he muttered to himself, "Humph, that damned liar, don't think that you can trap me with a stupid array. No one can stop me from finding a pretty big sister." Xining followed him and squatted down. She looked at the thing in his hand and asked subconsciously, "What's that in your hand?" The child didn't even think about it and replied casually, "What tooth?" It clearly looked like a stick. "Of course it's my teeth." The child continued, "When I was 4,500 years old, I got my teeth replaced. Look, my teeth haven't even grown out yet." As he spoke, he suddenly turned around and opened one corner of his mouth. He gestured for her to look at the empty gums on the right side and said proudly, "My teeth are the hardest things in the Sea of Clouds." Oh. Xining nodded in understanding. Something flashed in her eyes. "Since it's so powerful, why don't you bite it open directly?" The child was stunned for a moment. He seemed to think that what she said made sense. His eyes brightened and he really lay on the ground, opened his mouth and bit at the array. In the end he successfully knocked his teeth. "Epsilon, Omega, Omega, you lied to me." He glared at her angrily and held his teeth that were in pain. "Biting like this, it hurts." Xining said seriously, "It won't hurt if you knock it all off." "I'm angry. I'm ignoring you." The child snorted angrily and turned around to continue using the huge tooth in his hand to smash the array. He had just knocked twice when his body suddenly stiffened. As if he had just reacted, he turned to look at the person beside him in shock. "Oh, who are you?" He sat on the ground and stared at her with wide eyes. "When did you come in?" "Oh, I came in when you said you wanted to find a pretty young lady." The child's face paled. He glared at her even more angrily. "I'm warning you, don't try to stop me from breaking the array. Otherwise, I'll eat you up." With that said, he purposely bared his white teeth. "Who said I was going to stop you from breaking the array?" She was only here to persuade him not to leave the sea of clouds. The child paused and glanced at her suspiciously. "Isn't that so? Then why are you here?" Just as he finished asking, he suddenly thought of something. "You were sent here by that liar, weren't you? I've seen all the female immortals in the sea of clouds. I won't like you. You also. He suddenly stopped mid-sentence. His eyes widened as he stared straight at Xinying's face. He had never seen this young lady before. She was quite pretty. If it was her, he thought of something and his face suddenly turned red. He said awkwardly, "Ahem. If it's you, I'll be fine. Then I'll reluctantly agree to let you be my beautiful big sister." Is it that simple? He was indeed obsessed with looks. Then. She was just about to persuade him. The child suddenly rushed over and grabbed her hand. "I'll eat you right now." After saying that, it suddenly opened its mouth, revealing a mouthful of sharp teeth, and bit down on her wrist. Then, with a crack, a tooth fell out. "It hurts, it hurts, it hurts." He covered his bleeding mouth and gasped for air. "Was little Missy so hard? Why did you bite me?" Xinying was also stunned by this naughty child's sudden action. He looked aggrieved. "It was the demon immortals who told me that if I meet a beautiful lady, I have to eat her." What the hell? Who in the world had told it such dirty words? "That's not what they mean." "I don't care." The little cloud beast was anxious. It wiped the blood from its mouth and suddenly changed back to its original form. A huge fish that was more than 10 times bigger than the Crystal Palace appeared in front of it. It seemed to cover the sky. What a huge fish. "It's not easy to find a beautiful lady that I like." Its voice came from above, its tone full of arrogance. "Although you're a little short, a little skinny, a little fierce and not gentle. But I still want to eat you. Thank you for your whole family. And, most importantly, your chest is a little too small. I like big ones. You're too flat." The corner of Xinying's mouth twitched. Flat. Flatter than Ingji. She felt a buzz in her head. This sentence began to replay in her mind. Flatter than Ingji, flatter than Ingji. But, since I've swallowed it, I won't be able to see it anymore. So be it if it's small. As it spoke, it suddenly opened its mouth. In an instant, the seawater around it twisted, forming a huge whirlpool in its mouth. Everything around it was sucked towards the corner of its mouth. Just as it was about to be swallowed, Xinying suddenly reached out and grabbed one of its sharp teeth. "Little cloud beast." She suddenly grinned and said word by word, "Did anyone tell you that little animals that talk nonsense will be eaten? Sure enough, children are the most annoying thing." The cloud beast paused. It felt an aura that covered the sky and the earth and rushed towards it. With a cracking sound, the tooth that was caught was instantly crushed into powder. Before it could even react, before it could even move, it felt a weight on its head. With a loud bang, the fish head landed heavily on the bottom of the sea. Its vision turned black. Suddenly, the entire sea echoed with someone's exasperated voice. "You're the King Flat Princess. Airport. Soup dumplings. Fermented rice balls." It didn't say that. So 1 minute later. "Are you still going to eat me?" Sob, sob, sob. "I'm not eating anymore. You want to leave the cloud sea?" "I'm not leaving. I'm never leaving. You just said, your chest is the biggest, especially big. So big that I can't even see your face." Chapter 206. Above the Cloud Sea. "Will the fellow immortal inside be all right?" Ingji looked worried. Lady Shen looked like an earth immortal. Although he did not know why these people were so confident that she could enter the Crystal Palace, he knew the Cloud Beast's character very well. He could not help but worry that something might happen to her. Don't worry, Celestial Emperor. Shining knows what she's doing, Lone Moon replied. After some thought he added, should? What the hell should he mean? He was even more worried now. The whirlpool on the sea has disappeared. Someone suddenly exclaimed. Everyone paused and turned to look. Indeed, a few miles away, the whirlpool that was sealed by the golden array had disappeared. The surface of the sea was calm again. Even the occasional waves had stopped. The whirlpool had disappeared. The only possibility was that the hole that the Cloud Beast opened at the bottom of the sea had closed up. Ingji rejoiced. Indeed, an immortal came to report that the water under the Cloud Sea was no longer leaking. He heaved a sigh of relief. It looked like the Cloud Beast had been persuaded to come down. The few of them waited for a while longer. Then they saw a translucent bubble rising from the bottom of the sea. It parted the seawater and flew towards them. Inside the bubble stood two figures, one tall and one short. The tall one was Shining. The one beside her looked like a half-grown child. He must be the Cloud Beast. Ingji. Before they could get close, the Cloud Beast suddenly rushed out of the bubble. It plunged into Ingji's arms and started crying. Wah! I will never despise you again. I will never leave the Cloud Sea again. The young lady outside was so scary. Ingji paused. He looked at the Cloud Beast, who had suddenly changed its attitude. It was even more clingy than when it did not know its gender. He did not know how to react. After a while, he patted the Cloud Beast's little body. He sighed and said, It's good that you've thought it through. How did you do it? Lone Moon looked at Ingji. Without the Cloud Beast controlling the bubble, Ingji was back on the sword. Everyone had heard how the Cloud Beast had despised Ingji. Why did the two of them forget their differences in less than 5 minutes after Shining went in? Was she that eloquent? Nothing much. I was just trying to reason with him, Shining said calmly. Oh. Lone Moon nodded. Suddenly he thought of something and froze. Wait a minute. Wasn't Xin Ying's method of reasoning? Turning around to take a look, Zhang Xin's mouth twitched. What was going on with the Cloud Beast's swollen face? You did it, didn't you? Thank you, fellow immortals, for helping my Cloud Sea resolve this crisis. Ingji thanked them sincerely and looked at Shining gratefully. Thank you for your hard work, fellow immortal. If you ever need my help in the future, Ingji will not hesitate to help. It's okay. Chapter 207. Perhaps because he recalled the green grassland above him, Lan Yu finally came to his senses and completely gave up on trying to steal Lan Hua's girlfriend. When it came to snatching girls, he seemed to have never won before. Thus, holding a glass heart that had been pierced by someone, he turned around and flew towards Yunzhe without saying a word, leaving behind a dozen talismans. His dispirited look, as if he had lost his life's purpose, made everyone's hearts ache. Lone Moon suddenly understood the phrase, "Do not expose the truth." Shaking his head sympathetically, he happily took the Dharma talismans from Xin Ying's hands. Straight face, let's go. Lone Moon turned and said. It was getting late. Fellow immortal Lone Moon. Just as he finished speaking, Qin Ji's panic-stricken voice came from behind him. Celestial Emperor? Lone Moon turned back and his eyes widened. He saw a faint glow appear around Qin Ji's body, but his figure became fainter and fainter. In a short while, his entire body turned into a shadow. This is... Lone Moon was shocked. Instinctively, he reached out to grab Qin Gu, but found that his hand had passed right through him. He immediately conjured a few spells trying to stop Qin Ji's figure. Lan Hua and Yi Qing also hurried to set up an array and cast a spell. But there was no effect at all. The few of them could only watch as Qin Gu became fainter and fainter, until he disappeared before their eyes. What's going on? Everyone looked confused, shocked by this sudden change. Lone Moon released his divine perception to search for Qin Gu, but to no avail. Even his aura had disappeared as if he had never existed. What sorcery is this? I don't know either. Lan Hua, who had the most experience, shook his head. I've never seen it before. Just as he was thinking, the communication talisman by Lone Moon's side suddenly lit up. He had left it in the sect so that he could contact them in case of an emergency. His heart tightened. Could something have happened in the sect? He quickly took it out and infused immortal qi into it to activate the communication talisman. Instantly, Yu Hong's anxious and panicky voice sounded from the talisman. Elder, the chicken is gone. What? Lone Moon was stunned. Reflexively he replied, if it's gone we can buy another one. Invincible sect had many chickens. No, no. Yu Hong panicked and corrected herself. It's Celestial Emperor Chu Xian. He suddenly disappeared. Lonman's expression darkened. He looked at everyone and asked anxiously, calm down and explain clearly what's going on. How did he disappear? I don't know what happened either. Yu Hong took a deep breath. Just now, Celestial Emperor Chu Xian was guiding the disciples in their cultivation. Siyu was exchanging blows with him, but he suddenly disappeared into thin air. Did it turn into a shadow and disappear? Elder, how did you know? It is indeed so. When he disappeared, was there a white glow on his body? I Ching asked. How did you know? Biao Ting was stunned. Another one. Who did this? Lan Hua scratched his head in frustration. This is already the fourth person. The fifth. Shining suddenly corrected him. What? Radish disappeared too. That's right, there's Brother Radish. Lan Hua nodded and became even more anxious. He was sleeping on Lonman's lap and disappeared with him. Wait a minute. Radish? Lan Hua's eyes lit up. He suddenly thought of something. Good heart, I have a way to find him. But it's a little troublesome. I think we can only save Lone Moon alone. The others, we have to think of something else. What is it? Heart entrapment array. What is that? I Ching asked. This is a trapping array. Lan Hua explained. This array can gather demonic qi and trap people within it, causing them to be corroded by the demonic qi. And once this array is activated, no matter where the other party is, as long as they are within the boundaries of the immortal realm, it can trap them directly. You mean to set up an array here and use it to pull people back? That's right. Lan Hua nodded. But this array is special. It needs a part of the other party's body to set it up. Body? Xin Ying's mouth twitched. She thought of the pile of dandelions that Radish had given her and immediately understood. Radish is on Lone Moon's leg. Its aura is connected to his. So when Radish is trapped, Lone Moon will definitely be pulled into the array. Lan Hua continued. Although he will be affected by the demonic qi, Lone Moon should be able to withstand it. Alright, let's do that. Shining stood up and turned to look for the dandelions. Find Father Nyo first and solve the problem of eating. Chapter 208. Lan Hua said that the back mountain was where Radish usually stayed. Its aura still lingered there, so it was a good place to set up the array. Yu Hong followed his instructions and placed Radish's dandelion in the pit that Radish used to stay in. Lan Hua sat cross-legged on the back mountain, his hands forming seals. Large amounts of black demonic qi spread across the entire back mountain in an instant. Strands of black qi converged to form a huge black array diagram. The surroundings grew darker and darker. The dandelion that was originally overflowing with spirit qi was showing signs of withering. Even the immortal herbs on the ground seemed to have lost their spirit under the corrosion of the demonic qi. But there was still no movement in Radish's pit. There was no sign of anyone at all. Lan Hua's forehead was covered in sweat, and the demonic qi around him was also showing signs of fading. The immortal qi here is too strong. Biao Ting suddenly thought of something and said, the demonic qi will be suppressed. Let me help him. With that said, he conjured a seal. A golden immortal flashed, and a golden meridian appeared in the immortal herbs on the back mountain, forcing Lan Hua's demonic qi away. Biao Ting hurriedly conjured a rectangular jade box and opened it. He stopped conjuring, and the golden meridian turned into spots of golden light that flew into the box. Exalted Goddess, I've temporarily sealed the immortal meridian here, Biao Ting explained as he handed the box to Shining. Without the suppression of the immortal meridian, it will be easier for Celestial Emperor Lan Hua to set up the array. Shining nodded. Thank you for your hard work. She took the box and handed it to Yu Hong, then turned to look at the radish patch on the back mountain. Indeed, after the immortal meridian was sealed, the fading demonic qi became even thicker. Even the immortal herbs on the ground withered, looking like they were about to die. The heart entrapping array was almost complete. The array diagram on the ground was becoming more and more complete, covering the entire back mountain like a dense spider web. Radish's pit also began to emit a red light, getting brighter and brighter, showing signs of taking shape. It was almost done. At the same time, Lone Moon was sitting in the middle of an array with a serious expression. Radish, did you find anything? No. Radish retracted its long leaves and shook its head. My leaves can't extend out either. They bounce back the moment they touch it. Lone Moon's expression darkened. He had been trapped in this array for several days. The immortal energy in his body was completely suppressed and he could not move at all. Moreover, the array formation under his feet was very strange. He had never seen it before. It seemed to extend infinitely in all directions, but he could only see less than 2 feet in all directions. Everything else was a white fog. Therefore he had no idea where he was trapped. Even Radish, who was lying on his leg, was restricted. Only 2 of its leaves could move. Originally, he wanted him to explore the formation, but he didn't expect that even his leaves couldn't reach out. Little Missy will definitely come to save Radish, Radish said with certainty. Don't worry. Lone Moon frowned. Even if he wanted to save them, he had to first know where they were. Based on the situation when he was captured previously, it would be very difficult to find any clues. Just as he was thinking about how to send a message to Shining, the array formation under his feet suddenly lit up. Even the white fog in front of him began to dissipate. He could vaguely see a figure not far from him. Radish, hurry and hide, Lone Moon instructed. Then he looked seriously to his right. The figure beside him became clearer. In a moment, a man in a long blue robe appeared. He looked slightly familiar. Sun Shu. Why is it him? He blurted out. The person opposite him was also shocked. Lone Moon, why are you here? He was just about to explain when a familiar voice came from his left. Lone Moon? It's young Emperor Lone Moon. He turned to look and his eyes widened. Bird? Apui? Celestial Emperor Wu Hong, why are you here too? I don't know. He shook his head. I was already here when I opened my eyes. There seems to be someone else. At his reminder, Lone Moon turned to look. There were indeed a few more figures opposite him. They were a little far away. It was only after the white fog had completely dissipated that he could see them clearly. There was no need to talk about Qinggu. There were 4 other celestial emperors from different continents, Lan Yu, Yingji, Jizhe and even Chu Xian. Of the 10 celestial emperors, 6 had arrived. Like him, there was an array beneath their feet. They were trapped in different directions, forming a circle around each other. These arrays were connected to each other, forming a huge array that no one had ever seen before. Brother Lone Moon, you're here too. Chu Xian's eyes lit up when he saw Lone Moon. He began to look around. Where's Exalted Goddess? Is she here? At his reminder, even Jizhe, Wu Hong and Sun Shu hurriedly turned to look for her. No. Lone Moon shook his head. I was suddenly teleported here. She couldn't stop me in time. What's more, I don't know where this place is. As he spoke, he began to look around. This is the Emperor Ascension stage, Qinggu suddenly said, his eyes filled with shock. The few of them were shocked and began to look around. It really is the Emperor Ascension stage, Jizhe exclaimed. But who would set up such an array here? Celestial Emperor Chu Xian, you're an expert in array formations. Can you tell what kind of array this is? Qinggu asked. I don't know either. Chu Xian shook his head. I've never seen an array like this before. Also, this doesn't look like a simple trapping array. The person who set up this array trapping us here is probably just the first step. I don't know what he's trying to do. Who cares what he's trying to do? Wu Hong said angrily. This array has trapped me for days. Do any of you have any idea how to break it? Everyone fell silent. None of you can do anything? Wu Hong's expression darkened. What kind of damned array is this? So powerful. This is not an array. Just as they were thinking, a cold voice rang out from above them. The next moment, a few figures descended from the center of the Emperor Ascension stage. There were 2 men and 1 woman. At the front was an immortal with a long white beard. The immortal chi around him was thicker than anyone else's. He looked kind and righteous. He looked just like the immortal's Lone Moon had seen on television in his previous life. Celestial Emperor Zichen. The few of them exclaimed. Oh. Lone Moon paused. It's the Bo Si Celestial Emperor Zichen, Sun Shu explained in a low voice. Lone Moon understood. So it was him. He took a closer look at the people behind him. No wonder he told Qinggu that there were no anomalies there when they wanted to go to the void. They were in cahoots. Weren't the 2 people behind him Xian Han and Hui Ling? Master. Hui Ling called out. Little Ling? Qinggu was shocked as well. Why are you here? Hui Ling was about to walk towards Qinggu when Xian Han pulled her back. Little Xian, have you forgotten what I told you? But. Hui Ling looked at Qinggu who was in front of her. She looked like she was in a difficult position but she did not go over. Chapter 209. Everyone was a little dumbfounded. Zichen was the most inconspicuous one among all the Empyreans. He was also the first person to ascend to the position of Celestial Emperor. No one knew how long he had lived or when he became Celestial Emperor. Unlike the Cloud Sea who did not interact with the other continents, Zichen was even more low-key. His cultivation was not very high, and he did not seem to be someone with great aptitude. Compared to the other Celestial Emperors whose strength was on par with him, his strength was average. He did not participate in the conflicts between the continents. He had always played the role of a mediator. The impression he gave was that he was kind and had a good relationship with the other Celestial Emperors. That was why no one expected him to be the culprit. On closer inspection they realized that his cultivation level was shocking. The immortal chi in his body was even denser than that of the other Celestial Emperors. Could he have been hiding his cultivation level all this while? It's been many years. How are you, Celestial Emperors? Zichen stroked his white beard. He looked as kind as ever, but his eyes shone brightly. He seemed to have thought of something. Oh yes, I have yet to thank Celestial Emperor Qinggu for taking care of my daughter for so many years. Daughter? Qinggu paused. He looked at Hui Ling in disbelief. You? Hui Ling panicked. She hurriedly explained, I just found out. The others were also shocked. They had never heard of Zichen having a daughter. When the divine artifact was born, the immortal realm was in chaos. My daughter and my disciple accidentally fell into the mortal realm. My daughter was accidentally reincarnated. Zichen looked at Hui Ling tenderly. I thought I would never be able to find her. I did not expect Celestial Emperor Qinggu to help me find her. So Hui Ling's past life was so powerful. Also, disciple? Lone Moon caught the keyword and turned to look at Xian Han. That's right. Xian Han was my disciple. Zichen did not seem to be afraid that they would find out. He said it out loud. Everyone's expression darkened. Xian Han was his disciple. It was no wonder that ever since he ascended, his cultivation level had risen so quickly. In less than 10,000 years, he had become a Celestial Emperor. He was originally from the immortal realm. What do you want by bringing us here? Chu Xian asked loudly. Zichen only smiled and did not answer. Instead, Xian Han stepped forward and said, I just asked the few Celestial Emperors to help me with a small matter. With that said, he pointed around them. Everyone should know where this place is, right? Everyone was stunned. They did not know why he was asking this. Of course, they knew about the Emperor Ascension Stage. The Emperor Ascension Stage is just a name. Xian Han's usually cold face lit up with excitement. A long time ago this was where the heavenly pillar was. It was the divine pillar that connected the immortal and divine realms. Immortal world. This time everyone was truly shocked. There was actually such a place in the immortal world. It's a pity that the God world destroyed the heavenly pillars millions upon millions of years ago, leaving no immortals in the immortal world capable of ascending to the God world. This Emperor Ascension Stage is just a seal. His expression turned cold as he glanced at everyone and said, That's why I've invited everyone here today, because I want you to help me reconnect the heavenly pillars and reopen the door to the God realm. This is a great matter that will benefit the entire celestial world. Everyone was shocked. The highest cultivation level in the celestial world was the Celestial Emperor. It was not that no immortal had ever wanted to become a god, it was just that no one had succeeded. If that's the case, we can discuss this properly. Why do you want to capture us? Ingji could not help but ask. Xian Han was about to answer when Sun Shu guessed his intention. He spoke first, Your goal is the divine artifact. Young Emperor Sun is indeed wise. You are indeed from the Flowing Flame clan. How did you? Sun Shu's eyes widened. How did Xian Han know his identity? Apart from Lone Moon and the others, he had not told anyone else. There were no records of the Flowing Flame clan in the immortal world. Of course I know about the Flowing Flame clan, which manufactures divine artifacts. Xian Han's expression turned even colder. He said disdainfully, If not for your clan, the immortal and divine realms would not have gone to war. Fortunately, there was a way to salvage the situation. Sun Shu's expression darkened. He was disgusted by Xian Han's words, but he did not retort. Although the crowd did not know what the Flowing Flame clan was, when they looked around, they realized that everyone here possessed a god artifact. Little Han, it's about time, Zichen suddenly reminded him. Yes, master. Xian Han nodded. He conjured a spell and the entire Emperor Ascension Stage's array lit up. Everyone felt the restraints of the array grow stronger. After Xian Han was done, he turned to look at Hui Ling. Hui Ling was still hesitant. She glanced at Qinggu with a worried look on her face. Junior sister Xian, you promised me, Xan Han urged. Hui Ling gritted her teeth as if she had made up her mind. She walked to the center of the array and conjured a series of spells. Qin Ji's expression changed. He looked at her in disbelief. This spell was, before he could speak, he felt a sharp pain in his divine consciousness. The divine artifact that he had been nurturing in his divine consciousness flew out uncontrollably and landed in Hui Ling's hands. That was the spell to control the divine artifact in his body. Little Ling Yu. Qin Gu could not believe that she would use the spell he had taught her against him. Master. Hui Ling looked at him, tears streaming down her face. Her eyes were filled with conflict and grief, but surprisingly she did not feel guilty at all. Please understand, disciple. Father said that only these divine artifacts can open the seal on the heavenly pillar. This is for the sake of the immortal realm, for the greater good. The more she spoke, the more determined she became. It was as if she was the embodiment of justice. Everyone was shocked. They looked at Qin Gu sympathetically. He was probably the first person in the immortal realm to call such an act of betraying his own master a righteous cause. Qin Gu spat out a mouthful of blood due to the backlash from forcefully taking out the god artifact. His eyes widened even further as if he had just seen his own disciple clearly. Master. Hui Ling exclaimed. Instinctively she wanted to go over. Little Xian, Zichen suddenly said. Hui Ling stopped in her tracks but did not go over. She continued to look at Qin Gu pitifully and said innocently, Master, he's my father. I have to listen to him. You can understand little Ling, right? Qin Ji's expression turned cold. He closed his eyes as if he did not want to look at her anymore. He felt a chill in his heart. He had saved her from the demons of the lower realm and brought her to the upper realm. He had never treated her badly. Because of what happened to her when she was young, he favored her more than any of his disciples. Even when he saw her appear here unscathed, he wondered if Xen Han had coerced her. He did not expect her to know that because of his previous reincarnation, he had been using the divine artifact to nurture his primordial spirit and could not take it out easily. She could attack him without hesitation for the sake of a father whom she had only known for a few days. Moreover, looking at her now, she did not seem to have regained her memories of her previous life. For some reason he suddenly remembered what Shining had said a few days ago when they left the Invincible sect. You're not bad, but you're a little blind. He thought she was joking at the time. He really was a little blind. Chapter 210. Little Xian, we don't have much time, Xan Han reminded her again. Only then did Hui Ling retract her gaze. She received the divine weapon from Qin Gu and took out another one. It was the divine weapon that Biao Ting had lost, the Six Flame Pearl. She had no idea when it had landed in their hands. She took a few steps forward and recited a long string of incomprehensible spells. Everyone felt a sharp pain in their divine sense. The divine weapons that had been nourished in their divine sense flew out uncontrollably one after another, stopping around Hui Ling. The immortal qi in their bodies backfired and they all vomited blood. Apart from Lone Moon, who had no intention of keeping the divine artifacts in his storage bag, everyone else was seriously injured. Zichen tossed out the last divine artifact. All the divine artifacts flew into the center of the array. Including the six-joint sword, there were 11 divine artifacts in total. The array that had been restraining everyone suddenly emitted a blinding white light that enveloped the entire Emperor Ascension stage. The divine artifacts slowly disappeared into the light, as if they were melting into the array. In less than half a minute they could no longer be seen. The next moment, a pillar of light shot up into the sky. It seemed to connect the heavens. The heavenly pillar. Xan Han exclaimed. He looked at the pillar of light excitedly. One more step, Zichen reminded him. Xan Han paused. That's right, there's still the realm gate. It's not open yet. He took out something that looked like a jade gourd and conjured a seal in the middle of the array. Immediately, a green-robed woman appeared in the middle of the array. Miss Xian Tong. Qin Gu was the first to react. He tried to get up in shock but was restrained by the array. Lone Moon was shocked too. Why was this unlucky child here? She did not have a divine artifact on her. Xian Tong looked at Qin Gu blankly, then at Lone Moon. Elder Lone Moon. She stood up and was about to go over when Xan Han used his immortal qi to form a chain and pulled her back. Xan Han. Before Lone Moon could speak, Qin Gu was already panicking. What are you doing? Let go of Miss Xian Tong. Xan Han ignored him. Instead, he conjured a seal and pointed at Xian Tong's forehead. Xian Tong felt a large amount of immortal qi surging towards her primordial spirit. In the next moment she couldn't take it anymore. With a flash, she transformed back into a snow-white fox with 9 long tails behind her. Rumor has it that the 9-tailed white fox is a descendant of the god race and has an ancient bloodline. A smile flashed across Xin Han's face. He placed Xian Tong in the middle of the array and scanned the crowd. Although you're not willing to sacrifice yourself with the Celestial Emperor's cultivation, you can open the Divine Realm's realm gate. As he spoke, he waved his hand and instantly created a dozen wind blades that hit Xian Tong's fox body, creating several wounds that were so deep that bones could be seen. A large amount of blood gushed out. Xian Tong curled up into a ball from the pain, but she was unable to resist. She could only watch as her blood dyed the ground. At the same time, the entire Emperor Ascension stage turned red. Before everyone could react, they felt their bodies become heavy. The immortal energy in their bodies seemed to be drawn by something, flowing into the formation below them. This array can devour cultivation. Chu Xian was shocked. He tried to activate the immortal energy in his body to resist, but was suppressed by the array. He could not move at all. It was the same for the others. In less than a moment, the faces of those who were already seriously injured became even paler. If this went on, their cultivation would be sucked dry by the array and they would die. Lone Moon was also anxious. Damn it, why wasn't Shining here yet? She's so unreliable at this critical moment. Just as he was thinking, Radish, who was on his leg, suddenly spoke. Ugly, I feel like someone is pulling me. Lone Moon diverted his attention to look. Indeed, there was a faint black chi surrounding Radish. Even his primordial spirit was becoming unstable. This is demonic chi? At the invincible sect. Boss, what's wrong? Shining looked at Lan Hua, who was frowning. Lone Moon seems to be restrained by something. The heart entrapment array might not be able to pull him over. And it seems like he's not the only one there. It must be Little Bird and the others. Biao Ting said anxiously. Celestial Emperor Lan Hua, try again. Lan Hua's frown deepened. I can feel that their auras are very chaotic. They must have encountered some danger. But I'm not sure what is restraining them. If we pull them over by force, I can't guarantee that the others will succeed except for Radish. Didn't you say they were in danger? We can't care so much now. Biao Ting urged. Save as many as you can. Kindness. Lan Hua looked at Shining. Shining and Chef exchanged a look and nodded. Lan Hua mobilized his demonic chi and activated the heart entrapping array once again. This time he used all of his power and used all of his demonic chi to control the array. He followed Radish's aura. Following that, the strong restraining force came over. It was like a tug of war trapping the people on the other side. Lan Hua took a deep breath and activated the array. The entire back mountain was covered in black chi. The green immortal herbs on the ground withered in an instant. The restraining force was getting stronger. Lan Hua gritted his teeth and changed his hand seal, pulling the people over by force. In the next moment, a red light flashed in the pit where Radish was. With a thud, something fell from the sky, instantly filling up the pit below. Then, with a splat, another figure appeared beside the pit. Success. Everyone was overjoyed. They rushed over. Radish? Wait, there are 2 radishes. Next to the radish, a carrot that was a size bigger than the radish suddenly grew out. Yes. Radish, when did it get pregnant? Shining. The leaves on Radish's head shook. A familiar voice sounded. You finally showed up. Shining, Yi Qing, Lan Hua, the others? Who? Are you blind? I'm Lone Moon. Holy shit. Before Lone Moon could finish, he glanced at himself and suddenly let out a deafening cry. What's going on? How did I become a radish? Where's my body? Shining asked tentatively, Father? No. What the hell did you do? Lone Moon was going crazy. Everyone subconsciously took a step back. Wait, this is Invincible Sect? How did I get here? Everyone turned to look at a certain someone in the array. Lan Hua. Damn. What has this got to do with me? How did he know that it was only a primordial spirit? But that was not all. In the next moment there was a series of thuds. 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 One by one radishes emerged from the ground like bamboo shoots after the rain. Red, white, purple, green, all sorts of colors. They even formed a circle in a very orderly manner. This is, how did we get here? Weren't we at the Emperor Ascension stage just now? What is this place? Why is there so much demonic chi? Is this another one of Xin Han's schemes? This place looks familiar. Exalted Goddess, why are you here too? I'm a chicken, I'm a chicken. Exalted goddess, I'm a bird. I'm a bird. Everyone, chef. Master. I just remembered that I haven't had dinner. Why don't we go back first? Yes, master, no problem, master. Lone Moon jumped out of the pit in anger. You two get the hell back here. Chapter 211. Because Lone Moon and the others' bodies were trapped, and because Lan Hua forcefully activated the array, the two sides were pulling on each other. Therefore, apart from Radish, Lan Hua's primordial spirit was also pulled over. He also attached himself to the immortal plant at the back of the mountain. That was why he became Radish. Coincidentally, the array that bound Lone Moon also bound the others. Their auras were connected. Therefore, it was very obvious that there would be a lot of them. Buy 2 get 7 free. He had pulled all the people in the formation over. Sect Master Shin, we still need to save one more person, Xingu said anxiously. Xian Tong. Xian Tong is still there. Lone Moon turned his head and counted. Indeed, Xian Tong was not among the radishes. Is he not in the same formation as you? Lan Hua asked. She's in the heart of the array. She's not being suppressed like us. Xingu answered. Besides, Xan Han used her as a sacrifice. She's in danger. Her aura isn't connected to yours, so she can't come over. Lan Hua frowned. Besides, her situation is special. It's not her own body. Unless I find something related to her soul or essence soul and reactivate the array, there's nothing I can do. Qin Ji's entire carrot turned white. I Ching and Shining exchanged a look. Their souls were related. Yes. What? Hence, each of them kicked Qingu into the radish pit. Boss Lan, activate the formation. Thus, a minute later, there was another radish spirit in the ground. 5 minutes later. Radish, who finally understood their own situation, was in a complicated mood. Although they had escaped from the Emperor Ascension stage, they were still in the same boat. However, it was only their primordial spirits that came over. Their bodies were still there. This proved that the formation was still working. The few of them became even more worried. However, they were still part of the Celestial Emperor Legion, so they immediately started discussing how to deal with the situation. Although our primordial spirits are here, our bodies are still trapped in that array. We have to hurry to the Emperor Ascension stage. But that formation is really strange. It can even absorb cultivation bases. Can we really break through it? Zichen had planned this a long time ago. He must have been planning to use us to open the realm gate since the birth of the divine weapon 1,000 years ago. I think he was the one who arranged for his daughter and Xan Han to descend to the lower realm. How could there be such a coincidence that she fell into the same realm as Bai Ti's daughter? That's right. He probably had his eyes on Bai Qiao's 9-tailed fox fairy and wanted to trick her into volunteering for the array. But what should we do now? Even if we head over now, we'll probably be unable to do anything to Zichen and his master with our current bodies. There is no need to worry about our combat power. The main thing is that we were sent here by the heart entrapping array. The Emperor Ascension stage is thousands of kilometers away from here. We won't be able to get there in time. Also, Lone Moon's tone darkened. He turned and shouted at the person beside him, Shining, can you King stop pouring water over my head? Ha! The person holding the kettle behind him was stunned. He tilted his head. Didn't you say you wanted to drink water? It's Radish that says it wants to drink water. I'm Lone Moon. Lone Moon's entire Radish exploded. Look carefully at Radish before you water it, alright? Any more water and you can make kimchi. You should have said so earlier. Shining scratched her head. Sai, who asked you to look the same? How are they the same? Even the colors are different, okay? Also, isn't this King your fault? Otherwise, why would they become radishes? I was looking for you. Father Nyo, don't mind the details. Details my ass. How are these King details? They're not even human anymore. It's all my fault. Shining hurriedly retracted her hand. She turned the kettle obediently and poured the water over the radish beside her. There. Exalted goddess, I'm little bird. Shining, then changed to another one. Exalted goddess, I'm chicken. The next one, exalted goddess, I'm Jizha. Shining, I Ching, Lan Hua, all the radishes, radish, little missy, I'm radish, I'm radish. Radish, shut up. Lone Moon felt a headache coming on. Why was it still making a fuss about drinking water at a time like this? Pui. Radish glared at him and used its leaves to take the kettle from Xin Ying's hands. Cough that. Chingu coughed softly and changed the topic. Young Emperor Lone Moon is right. Invincible sect is a long way from the Emperor Ascension stage. By the time we get there, Zichen's array would have been completed. By that time, they would not be able to stop the other party. We can go straight to the heavens beyond heaven first. There's a transportation array at the third heavenly gate that leads straight to the Emperor Ascension stage. That would be much faster, Jizha suggested. No. We won't make it in time. It'll take at least 2 days to get to the heavens beyond heaven. Chingu shook his head. Then what do we do? Chu Xian was getting anxious. The longer our primordial spirits leave our bodies, the harder it will be for us to return to our bodies. What's more, the array on the Emperor Ascension stage will absorb our cultivation. When that happens, he did not finish his sentence, but all the radishes people understood what he meant. Even if they returned by then, who knew how much their cultivation would be reduced? For a moment, everyone was silent. I have an idea. Lan Hua, who was watering the radishes, suddenly spoke up. He scanned the crowd and said mockingly, "It's just that, it depends on whether you believe me or not." The bite of 10,000 voids. Lone Moon's whole radish jumped out of the hole, his face full of excitement. That's right, how could he have forgotten about this spell? Didn't Xen Han use this spell to escape? Lan Hua was a demon. Naturally he knew it too. That's right. Lan Hua nodded. He scanned the radishes on the ground again and deliberately raised his voice. This array can send people straight to the Emperor Ascension stage. But I can send you there. Just treat it as payment for your food. I won't send anyone else. Why? Lan Hua snorted. When these celestial emperors attacked me, they all wanted to kill me. Why should I help them? What's more, this is a transportation array of my demon race. Even if I dare to send you there, would they dare to enter? His words were full of sarcasm. The radish's expressions changed. Lan Hua hated the celestial emperors of the 10 directions. Of the 7 people present, all of them had attacked him before. They just did not expect the tables to turn. The situation became awkward. Apart from the green radish, Lan Yu, who was still rolling his eyes. You asked for it back then. Lan Dash, Chingu started to speak. But Shining suddenly pushed Lan Hua. Stop wasting time. Set up the array. All right. Lan Hua raised his hand and conjured a seal. Lone Moon, I Ching, the celestial emperors. Didn't they say they wouldn't send anyone? Lan Hua, son of AB***. He set up the array very quickly. The demonic qi gathered by the heart-entrapping array had not dissipated yet. In less than a moment, black qi appeared in his hand. He waved it in the air. The air in front of him twisted. A tear appeared in the air. Huge amounts of demonic qi flowed out of it. All right. Lan Hua turned and glared at the radishes, his face full of reluctance. Yu Hong, look after the disciples in the sect. Also, send a message to Celestial Emperor Bai Ti. Especially about Xen Han using his daughter's previous body as a sacrifice for the array. Yes. Celestial Emperor Biao Ting, please look after the primordial spirits of the other Celestial Emperors. Alright, no problem. Biao Ting nodded. Lan Hua, look after Shen Tong. Got it. Shining I Ching, let's go. I Ching summoned his immortal sword. Together with Shining, he picked up Father Nyo from the pit and was the first to fly into the tear. The radishes had no choice but to follow him. When they passed by Lan Hua, they couldn't help but turn around and nod at him. Thank you, Emperor Lan Hua. I didn't expect you to help us despite our past enmity. When this matter is over, I will definitely pay you a visit and apologize. Lan Hua's mouth twitched. Who would want to help you? If not for my kindness? Hurry, this array won't last long. Seeing that the ground was full of radishes that did not know each other, and that seemed to want to say something, Lone Moon impatiently urged them. He kicked the last green radish that was moving slowly into the array. He picked up Shen Tong from the ground and entered the array. Lan Lu. You really should have killed him back then. Degree. Chapter 212. Lan Hua's sorcery was quite reliable. In the blink of an eye, they arrived at the Emperor Ascension stage. The entire Emperor Ascension stage was covered in red light. The light shot up into the sky, blinding. Xen Han stood in the middle of the array, controlling it. Zichen and Hui Ling stood on the other side, looking like they were protecting him. I didn't expect your primordial spirits to escape. How dare you come back to die? Xen Han noticed them immediately. He recognized the new identities of the celestial emperors and snorted. He looked at them condescendingly. When he saw Shining, his eyes widened. "It's you." A look of panic flashed across his face. Then, as if remembering something, he calmed down. "The array has been activated. There's nothing you can do no matter how strong you are. Little Biao, stand guard here. I'm going to save them." I Ching did not want to listen to his nonsense. He summoned his immortal sword and charged forward. Lan Hua flew forward at the same time. He was just about to rush towards the people sitting cross-legged around the array. Suddenly, a golden light flashed within the array. Before the two of them could touch the array, they were thrown out by the light. I Ching was fine. He was only forced back a few steps. Lan Hua's sleeves suddenly burst into white flames. He hurriedly tore off half of his dermic robe to prevent the flames from burning him. But the demonic qi that he had just gathered was instantly dispersed. Lan Hua was shocked. This array could cleanse demonic qi. I didn't expect that the celestial emperors would work together with the demons one day. Xan Han glanced at Lan Hua and laughed coldly. His face was full of glee. It's a pity that the Emperor Ascension stage was set up by the divine race. A demon wants to shake the divine race's heavenly pillar? What a joke. If immortal qi was the nemesis of demonic qi, then divine power was a great poison to demons. This Emperor Ascension stage was set up by the divine race. Celestial Emperor Lan Hua, don't be rash, Chu Xian reminded him worriedly. Lan Hua's expression darkened. He had no choice but to retract the demonic qi around him. I'll do it. I Ching gestured for him to step back. He activated the immortal qi in his body. Sword qi exploded, forming a huge golden sword that slashed towards the light pillar. It's useless. Xan Han was not the least bit worried. You can't break through the Emperor Ascension stage. With a loud bang, the sword intent that I Ching had used all his strength to attack struck the red pillar of light heavily. The Emperor Ascension stage shook a little, but it did not seem to be damaged at all. There was really no way to break into it. The entire Emperor Ascension stage seemed to be encircled by a red barrier. There was no way to break through it. Since you want to bring more people to die, I'll grant your wish. Xan Han's eyes hardened. He conjured a seal with both hands. Xan Han was bare-legged, standing about 10 feet away, still in a state of shock. Shining, Zichen, Huiling, air. Shining pursed her lips. If she said she didn't do it on purpose, would anyone believe her? That? She was just about to return the belt when Father Nyo's exasperated voice came from the air. Shining, what the hell are you doing? Hurry, we can't hold on any longer. On the Dharma artifact outside, the radishes were already surrounded by the bodies controlled by Xan Han. Biao Ting and Lan Hua could not handle them at all. All they could do was shout for help. Shining paused. She was just about to hand the belt over to the radishes when she turned around and threw it in their direction. The belt was a Dharma robe after all. In an instant it became longer. Like a rope, it wrapped around Father Nyo and the others. She took advantage of the situation and pulled them back into the array. Then she threw the belt in I Ching's direction. For a moment, everyone's bodies that were controlled by the spirit manipulation spell fell to the ground like dumplings. Shining then threw away the belt in her hand. It's your turn. Xan Han subconsciously took a step back. Seeing that Shining was walking towards him, he moved his hand and conjured a seal. Suddenly, a red light flashed under Shen Ying's feet. An array pattern formed beneath her feet. It was the same array pattern that had trapped everyone on the Emperor Ascension stage. The originally circular formation began to change. The red light once again spread to everyone's feet, including Zichen and Huiling. Air Han, what are you doing? Zichen realized that something was wrong. But it was too late. He could not move his body. His cultivation level was being sucked into the array. He could only look at the person opposite him in shock. Shining was stunned. Was this internal strife? Chapter 213. Master, I just finished what you wanted me to do later. Xan Han's expression was cold. He looked at Zichen as if he was looking at a dead man. What do you mean? Zichen paled. He snorted, his eyes filled with murderous intent. Don't think I don't know. This array concentrates everyone's cultivation in one place. In other words, even if the gates to the divine realm are opened, only one person can become a god. Isn't Master planning to kill me after everything is done and become a god by himself? You. Zichen was shocked. Guilt flashed across his eyes. Xan Han. Huiling shouted anxiously. I don't know what he's planning. Why are you doing this to me? I trusted you so much. Little Xian. Xan Han could not bear to see her like this, but he did not undo the array around her. I like you, but you're his daughter. Instead of hating me in the future, why don't? I'm not his daughter. Hui Ling panicked. She no longer looked as innocent as before. I've already reincarnated. What happened in my past life has nothing to do with me. That's not important. Don't worry. Once I become a god, I'll find a way to bring you back to life. No. Xan Han ignored her. He looked at the people who had been pulled back and Shining, who was standing in the array. His earlier panic disappeared and he said excitedly, "It's been hard on you to send these array cores back so that I can set up a new array. Then you and these people will open the gates to the divine realm together. You'll use up all your cultivation and die." He conjured a seal with both hands and reactivated the array. His smile widened as if victory was already in his grasp. If only, not for the fact that he was barefooted. Straight face, how does this ancient divine array feel? He looked elated. No matter how high your cultivation is, you won't be able to get out. Before he could finish his sentence, Shining, who had not felt anything at all, looked down at her feet and took a step forward. Xen Han, the father and daughter, everyone, how? How can this be? Xen Han looked as if he was hallucinating. This is the divine race's array. How could this be? Impossible. Is it very powerful? Shining tilted her head, a look of confusion flashing across her face. Let me try. As she spoke, she suddenly squatted down, clenched her fist, and punched the ground playfully. There was a cracking sound and a crack the width of a finger appeared. In the next moment, the entire Emperor Ascension stage started to fall like dominoes. The sound of cracking could be heard. With Shining as the center, cracks started to appear one after another. They spread out in all directions and covered the entire Emperor Ascension stage in no time. The red formation above them collapsed immediately, and the red light was extinguished. Everyone who had lost control of their bodies fell to the ground one after another. Even the pillar of light that had shot straight into the sky transformed into countless specks of red light before disappearing into thin air. The quality isn't that great either. Shining shook her head. Everyone? No. Xen Han looked at the spot where the light pillar had disappeared, his face crumbling. Heavenly pillar, realm gate. Impossible. He was clearly just one step away from opening the door to the divine realm and becoming a god. Master, are you all right? The array disappeared. I Ching was the first to fly down from the sky. Just as he was about to land, he saw the cracks on the ground and immediately pulled Shining onto his sword. Shining brushed the dust off her hands. Biao Ting also flew down with the radishes. Why did it take so long this time? Lone Moon jumped onto their swords and glared at Shining. Didn't they usually settle it in 1 or 2 minutes? This time it took 5 minutes. You dared to destroy the array for becoming a god. Xan Han's eyes were bloodshot. He looked as if he had lost his mind. He glared at Shining. You deserve. Before he could finish his threat, he felt a sharp pain in his chest. He spat out a mouthful of blood. He looked down and saw a hand piercing through his chest. It was Zi Chen's hand. Hui Ling was also shocked by Zi Chen's sudden attack. She screamed, her face pale, but she did not go over to help Xen Han. You, good disciple, I forgot to tell you. The Emperor Ascension stage is indeed a heavenly pillar, but it cannot open the door to the divine realm. Seeing Xen Han's shocked expression, Zi Chen smiled even wider. Because there is no array on the Emperor Ascension stage. There is a seal. With that, he pulled out Xen Han's primordial spirit from his body. The thick immortal chi surrounding Zi Chen disappeared in an instant. A black aura surged. You are. Xen Han said the last 2 words and then stopped. His face was still full of shock. This is demonic chi. Biao Ting exclaimed. He looked at the person who had suddenly transformed. Zi Chen was a demon. How could this be? He's a sky fiend. Lan Hua's eyes widened. Only a sky fiend could disguise his demonic chi as immortal chi. Zi Chen's demonic chi surged. He turned to face the crowd and said, I have to thank all of you for helping me destroy the Emperor Ascension stage. That's how I broke the seal. With that, he struck the Emperor Ascension stage beneath his feet and extinguished the last trace of red light. With a loud bang, the Emperor Ascension stage shattered into pieces. The next moment, huge amounts of demonic chi rose into the sky, gushing out endlessly. In an instant, the entire heavens beyond heaven was filled with demonic chi. The sky darkened. Get out of here. Lan Hua shouted. He led the people who had found their bodies and rushed out of the Emperor Ascension stage. But the demonic chi spread even faster. The radishes stared in shock at the demonic chi in front of them. Chapter 214. Zichen had planned for hundreds of thousands of years and finally managed to come up with a big move. His companions in the celestial world were all stunned. For a time the surroundings were abnormally quiet. Even the demonic aura that was still spreading seemed to have frozen, no longer spreading. No one could react to what had happened. 5 minutes later, Shining glanced at the tightly shut gates of the demonic realm in front of her, raised her hand and knocked on the door. "Little Black, open the door." "I don't want to." A frightened voice came from behind the door. "Come out first, I have something to ask you." "No, I don't want to go out anymore." Sob, 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 so scary. "Why are you crying?" "I won't hit you." "Really?" "It's true." "Really? Really?" "It's true." "Really, really, really? If you talk any more, I'll slap you right now." As soon as he finished speaking, the door creaked open. It was still that black-robed demon king with a pair of blood-red eyes. The surrounding demon chi was even more shocking. However, compared to the domineering aura he had a moment ago, the current him seemed exceptionally well behaved. His eyes were slightly misty, and his hands were neatly placed on his knees. Even his shameful figure was shorter than before. "Why are you kneeling on the ground?" Shining glanced at the person on the ground. The demon king shuddered before replying seriously, "Exalted goddess, I feel that kneeling on the ground and looking at you is especially impressive." "Shining, everyone, why did she suddenly have the urge to light a candle for Zichen?" The corner of Xinying's mouth twitched. She threw Zichen, whom she had just killed, over to him. "Tell me what's going on." The demon king immediately distanced himself from her and took 2 steps to the side. "Exalted goddess, I'm really innocent. I don't know anything. I just sensed that someone was summoning me, so I came over to take a look. I didn't know that the immortal world was behind this door. If he had known, he wouldn't have opened it even if he was beaten to death." "You mean?" Xinying's voice deepened. "There are many more doors like this?" The demon king's face paled and cold sweat immediately poured out. But, maybe, yes." Oh no, he had let it slip. I Ching, who was at the side, immediately reacted and his heart sank. Indeed, although this door looked exactly the same as the one in Invincible Sect, this was the Emperor Ascension stage. It was obvious that it was not the same door. In other words, there was more than one gate leading from the immortal realm to the demon realm. "How many more of these doors are there?" I Ching asked. The demon king gritted his teeth. Just as he was about to reply, Zichen, who was lying on the ground, finally reacted. He had a look of disbelief as he said, "My king, what are you doing?" "As long as you give the order, the demon world's army will unify the 3 realms just around the corner, so why?" "Shut up." The demon king sent a wave of suppressive might sweeping over, directly pressing him back to the ground. "You little b****, you still want to trick me?" How could he still have a demon realm army? The 10 sky fiends had long been wiped out, and they were still lying in the demon palace groaning and recuperating from their injuries. "Exalted goddess, listen to my explanation." The demon king was on the verge of tears. He looked at Shining weakly and said, "These were all done by the previous demon king. It was he who wanted to unify the 3 realms, so he sent some of his clansmen to hide in the 3 realms. Not just in the celestial realm but in the lower realms as well. All of them were tamed demons, and once the realm gate opened, they could directly summon the demon king. But I really don't know exactly how many there are." He quickly confessed everything in one breath. "You mean there are other demons in the immortal realm?" Lone Moon was shocked. "There should be, right?" He nodded, then continued, "The lower realm is not a good place, so the previous demon king always wanted to conquer the immortal realm. It's just that 1,000,000 years ago the immortal realm and the divine realm were connected. That's why I haven't found a chance to act." Lone Moon thought about it carefully and understood the whole story. In the past, the devil race did not dare to attack the immortal world because of the god race. After that, the god world and the immortal world fell out, but in the end they left behind the Emperor Ascension stage and sealed the door to the demon world. The demon king was not satisfied, so he sent some people to secretly cause destruction, wanting to open the realm gate. Zichen was one of them. It was just that he had prepared for so many years, and the demon race had already changed. At the last critical moment he met Shining the cheat. For a moment, he did not know whether he should be happy for the immortal realm, or mourn for Zichen. "Can you find these people?" Shining asked. Yes. The Demon King immediately nodded his head like a little chick. The exalted goddess's orders, he definitely could. Alright then, within 3 days think of a way to call all your people back. Xining waved her hand and said, in the future manage your territory well, don't come out and wander around if you have nothing to do. Yes, exalted goddess, no problem, exalted goddess. Alright, you can go. Yes, exalted goddess. Only then did the Demon King heave a sigh of relief. He immediately got up, picked up the fainted Ziqin and with a whoosh disappeared through the door. 3 days later. The Demon King was quite efficient in his work. He took out a heavenly devil order, which was an artifact used to summon demons. In less than a day after he took it out, people began to gather at the gate of the demon realm to report. Among these people, some looked like insignificant little immortals, some were famous immortals in the immortal realm, and one of them was even a country emperor. Although they were not sky fiends, they all had their own ways to hide their identities. The more the celestial emperors saw, the more frightened they became. If not for Xining, perhaps it would not be long before the immortal realm really fell into the hands of the demon world. All of these people were brought back to the demon world by Little Black. The crisis was considered resolved. Ziqin was also brought back to the demon world. Thinking about the Demon King's expression, he probably did not end up well. The only one who had not been dealt with was Hui Ling. What she had done was not considered a big deal, but it was not a small matter either. It was not because of her, and she was more or less influenced by Xian Han. But it was an indisputable fact that she had betrayed her master and stolen the divine artifact. No one else could say anything. The one who was most qualified to deal with this, and also the one who suffered the most, was Chengu. So the celestial emperors directly handed her over to him. Remove her immortal bones, destroy her cultivation, and send her back to the lower realm. Chen Ji's expression did not change. Word by word he stated Hui Ling's punishment, but his voice was cold. She came from the lower realm. Now she has returned to where she belongs. As for what happens in the future, it depends on her fate. Chen Ji's punishment seemed to be extra lenient. But to Hui Ling, it was the most severe punishment. Who would want to reincarnate and become immortal again after becoming an immortal? What's more, people who had their immortal bones removed could not cultivate again. A mortal's lifespan was less than 100 years. To Hui Ling, who was once an immortal, this was worse than death. It seemed that her previous actions had completely chilled Chen Ji's heart. He no longer had the slightest bit of indulgence towards her. Young Emperor Lone Moon, what do you think of this? Chen Gu turned to look at Red Radish. What does it have to do with me? Lone Moon glared at him. The anger he had been suppressing for the past few days exploded out. Let's put this aside for now. Didn't you say that I can change back as soon as I find my body? Why am I still a radish? Air? The corner of Chen Ji's mouth twitched. He said in a low voice, Young Emperor, our bodies are badly injured. If we let our primordial spirits return to our bodies, our injuries will worsen. We have to think about this carefully. We can't rush it. Alright. Even if we have to wait for our bodies to recover before we can go back, then. He took a deep breath and turned to stare at the radishes in the room. Why are you still here? The fight was over, shouldn't they go back? Why the hell were they still staying at Invincible Sect? Watering them didn't cost money. All the radishes froze. Father Nyo, it's not good for them to go back just like that. Xining interrupted. They were celestial emperors after all. Shut up. Lone Moon glared at her. If you hadn't beaten our bodies up so badly, do we need to be like radishes and play with them every day? Xining paused. Weren't you the one who asked me to beat them up faster that day? I asked you to beat that bastard Xian Han. Who asked you to use your belt to whip us? Wasn't that to save you? You're the one who's weak, blame me. Save your ass. Is that considered saving? When they came back to check, they found out that 8 out of the 9 people had their meridians broken and their immortal bones damaged because she had used her belt to whip them. The only one who was not too bad was Xian Tong. But because she was a fox, Xian Han did not control her body to attack them. She only lost too much blood in the sacrificial array. So now she was back in her fox body and the others were still radishes. The more he thought about it, the angrier he got. He could not suppress his anger. Also, move that stupid pot away from my head. Don't pour it on me anymore. Are you King colorblind? I said I'm not a radish, I'm not. Xining, I Ching, all the celestial emperors, their primordial forms were damaged and they could not return to their bodies for the time being. What's more, 6 of the 8 radishes were celestial emperors. Those with lower cultivation levels might suffer if they tried to heal their bodies. The only one who could do it was little Biao. But he did not know how long it would take to heal them one by one. Finally, he thought of a more efficient way. Since all the celestial emperor's primordial spirits are in the immortal herbs. The immortal herbs are wood elemental and have healing properties. Why don't we infuse our bodies with this aura? Biao Ting said seriously. What's more, earth and wood are interdependent. We can use this method to heal them. There's living soil in the back mountain. Living soil is immortal soil. Can help. Speak human language. Shining interrupted. Oh, I mean bury them with their bodies in the back mountain. Maybe they'll grow together with the radishes. All the radishes fell silent. But they had to try anything now. So they hugged their bodies and planted them in the back mountain. Perhaps they were traumatized by the Emperor Ascension stage. They planted themselves neatly in a circle, exactly the same as when they were first trapped. Little Biao's method was indeed useful. With the help of the immortal veins in the back mountain and the living soil, their bodies could slowly sense the movement of their meridians. Then they could guide them to heal themselves. In order to speed up their recovery, they dug out immortal veins one by one and planted them in their bodies. In an instant, the immortal Qi and invincible sect exceeded that in the heavens beyond heaven. Under the nourishment of so many immortal veins, their bodies started to heal at a visible rate. What's more, the immortal herbs that only matured once in thousands and tens of thousands of years matured in less than 2 to 4 hours. The disciples' hands were sore from collecting so many vegetables. Seeing this, Lone Moon silently put away his small abacus that he had planned to calculate their accommodation fees. They were buried in the back mountain for half a month. Their bodies had mostly recovered. Just as they were about to fully recover, an unexpected piece of news came from the heavens beyond heaven. What? Hui Ling escaped? Lone Moon was shocked. Qin Ji's expression darkened. He was not in a good state to go back. That was why Hui Ling was escorted back by Biao Ting and locked in the immortal prison. Usually he dealt with matters in Fengcang only through the communication talisman. He did not expect Hui Ling to escape from the immortal prison. Given her cultivation, she could not have broken through the immortal prison's array. Who helped her? It's. The voice in the communication talisman lowered and said hesitantly, Celestial Emperor, it's Lu Ming. What? Qinggu was shocked. His face was full of disbelief. Half of the radish was red with anger. He knew that Lu Ming and Hui Ling were close, but he did not expect him to disobey his master's orders. This traitor. He had only taken in 2 disciples in his life. He did not expect one to be worse than the other. Even the other radishes in the pit looked at him sympathetically. Qinggu took a deep breath to suppress his anger. In a low voice he said, Where did they escape to now? No, they did not escape. The voice in the communication talisman became even weaker. What do you mean? The voice in the talisman paused. After a while it continued with some uncertainty. Lu Ming said that the Celestial Emperor was harmed by the traitors of Invincible Sect. It is unknown whether he is dead or alive. The person who ordered junior sister Hui Ling to be locked up is definitely not the Celestial Emperor himself. That is why he wants to contact all the country emperors to avenge the Celestial Emperor. Qinggu, Lone Moon, all the radishes, they did not expect Hui Ling to have such a trick up her sleeve. Her intelligence was many times higher than before when she was completely in love. She was the one who knew where Qinggu was and what had happened to him. Now she was using the excuse of avenging him as an excuse. It was obvious that she wanted to use this excuse to get rid of Qinggu while he was injured and replace him. Was she going to take a gamble because she knew that she could not escape punishment? Everyone's minds turned and they understood immediately. They looked at Qinggu with even more sympathy. They could not help but feel glad that they did not blindly take in disciples because they had nothing better to do. But he wanted to attack Invincible Sect just because he had some country emperors on his side. Was there something wrong with his brain? Although Qinggu was a radish now, Lan Hua, Biao Ting and I Ching were not to be trifled with. What's more, there was Shining. All the radishes were just about to discuss the intelligence of Qin Ji's disciple when Yu Hong rushed over. Panting, she said, Elder Lone Moon, many unfamiliar immortals suddenly appeared at the foot of the mountain. They are shouting that they want to avenge the Celestial Emperor. I know. They are the people of the various country emperors. Lone Moon nodded. Inform little Biao, no. Before he could finish, Yu Hong shook her head. They are from Fengtian. What? Blackbird almost jumped out of the pit he was in. Why would people from Fengtian come here? Very little Hong, are you sure? That's right. Yu Hong said confidently. They are all demon immortals. They say they are here to avenge you. I told them that you were fine, but they refused to listen. Blackbird looked confused. He was not even dead. What kind of vengeance was this? It's over, it's over. These people are dragging me down. Suddenly there was a loud bang. A transparent protective shield appeared in the sky above Invincible Sect, encircling the entire sect. This was the protective mountain array. Someone was attacking. Blackbird felt his anus tighten. Holy shit, those bastards really dared to come up. Before they could regain their senses, they saw a large number of immortals flying towards them. They were so dense that they occupied half the sky. Not only Feng Tian in the east, but also Yun Zhe in the west, Yun Hai in the north, Chang Nuo in the south. Apart from Biaoting's Qingzhe continent, all the immortals from the other continents were here. What's more, they surrounded Invincible Sect in unison. The faces of the radishes, who were watching a good show just now, darkened in unison. They were going to die, they were going to die, they were going to die. Chapter 215. The sky above Invincible Sect was already filled with immortals, all of them brimming with immortal qi. Apart from Hui Ling and Lu Ming, the others were all famous immortals from various continents. The weakest of them was a Stygian immortal. The strange thing was that none of the country emperors of Fengcang had come. Behind them were a few immortals whom they had never seen before. Their cultivation levels were very low. The immortals came in a menacing manner. Without any explanation, they began to attack. All kinds of spells were cast, and the entire sky was filled with the light of different spells. But as soon as they were released, they were all blocked by the protective mountain array outside. Not a single person could rush in. After all, it was Lan Hua who had personally set up the protective mountain array. The country emperors of young emperors and immortal emperors would not be able to rush in quickly. All the disciples of Invincible Sect had already gathered at the square in front of the palace. Biaoting was alarmed as well. He looked at the densely packed immortals in the sky. What was going on? Were they collectively seeking death? Everyone in Invincible Sect has wild ambitions. In order to unify the immortal world, they set up an array to plot against the emperors, causing them to fall. The immortals are usually protected by the emperors. Now that they are in trouble, we must avenge them. A male voice suddenly rang out in the sky, spreading through the entire Invincible Sect. In an instant, the immortals in the sky became even more agitated. They all began to shout for revenge. Don't spout nonsense. Biaoting retorted angrily. His voice carried the immortal pressure of a celestial emperor, immediately suppressing the voices of the immortals. Who told you that the emperors have fallen? Perhaps they felt the immortal pressure of a celestial emperor, but the immortals who were attacking the protective mountain array stopped. Biaoting flew up and looked at the immortals in the sky through the array. He heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that there were no demon immortals from Qingzhe. He turned to look at the two people in the lead and frowned. It's you? Wasn't this the traitor under Qinggu? Emperor Biaoting, you don't have to act. Lu Ming did not seem to be afraid of his identity at all. He snorted and said, Invincible Sect dared to do such a thing, naturally they would find an ally. You are in cahoots with them. You're just a minor gold immortal. Don't spout nonsense. Biaoting's expression darkened and his immortal aura pressed down on Shining. Everyone in the Invincible Sect, especially Sect Master Shin, is a benevolent and righteous immortal. The things you said were clearly done by the woman beside you. Now that the matter had been exposed, were they going to push the blame onto the exalted goddess? I'm indeed on good terms with Invincible Sect, but that's out of my own will. I'm relying on my own abilities to cozy up to Invincible Sect. It's none of your business. Lu Ming was forced to take a step back by his immortal pressure. He panicked and hurriedly turned to look behind him. Emperor Bai Ti, you've seen it for yourself. Invincible Sect is indeed colluding with Qingzhe. The immortals made way for him and one of them flew forward. Bai Ti. Biaoting was shocked as well. Why was he here? Emperor Biaoting. Bai Ti frowned and looked at him hesitantly. Were you really behind the deaths of the rulers? Who said the rulers were dead? Biaoting looked at him as if he was an idiot. Bai Ti, you don't really believe what they're saying, do you? Don't tell me you don't know what kind of person Exalted Goddess Shen of the Invincible Sect is? If the Exalted Goddess wanted to unify the immortal world, why would she need to scheme? With one word they would all have to kneel down, alright? Bai Ti really did not know. He only looked down warily at Yi Qin, who seemed to be counting the number of people. Are you saying that the rulers are fine? Bai Ti was even more hesitant. Actually, when Lu Ming said that the invincible sect had schemed against the rulers, Bai Ti was also suspicious. But when he looked around, he found that the other rulers were indeed not in their respective palaces. He already owed the invincible sect a favor. Seeing that the immortals from all the continents had all come here, he was afraid that something irreparable would happen. That was why he followed them. Of course they're fine. Biao Ting shook his head and pointed to Hui Ling, who was standing beside Lu Ming. It was this woman who deceived her master and trapped everyone. It was the invincible sect who saved the rulers. They're just recuperating here. They'll be able to go back in a few days. Nonsense. My junior sister did not do such a thing. Lu Ming retorted loudly. He laughed coldly and said, if it's really as you say, then why don't we invite the rulers to come out and confront them face to face? Biao Ting was speechless. If those radishes could come out, he wouldn't have the chance to persuade this bunch of brainless immortals. Not to mention how embarrassing their image was now, just based on the fact that they had no combat power at all. They could not guarantee that they would be schemed against by immortals with evil intentions and really die. That was also why they would rather stay in the invincible sect than return to the heavenly palaces. At least they would not have to worry about their safety if they stayed here. Everyone. Lu Ming continued to incite the immortals behind him. My junior sister saw the invincible sect colluding with Celestial Emperor Qingzhe to scheme against the rulers. It wasn't easy for her to escape and report to us. Now that Biao Ting is here, it's the best proof. What's more, their evil deeds are not just that. With that said, he turned to Hui Ling beside him and said softly, Junior sister, don't be afraid. Tell everyone what they did. Hui Ling glanced at Biao Ting, a hint of panic flashing across her eyes. She immediately retracted her gaze, pretending to be frightened. However, her voice could still be heard clearly. I saw Invincible Sect Master Shen Ying colluding with the demons to set up an array on the Emperor Ascension stage, trapping all the celestial emperors. She even wanted to open the gates to the demonic world. As soon as she finished speaking, there was an uproar. The demons? The demons were actually involved. No wonder the rulers fell to their evil schemes. Recently, there's suddenly a lot of demonic chi in the heavens beyond heaven. Could it be that the gates to the demonic world have already been opened? As immortal cultivators, they colluded with the demons. We have to get rid of these scum. That's right, we have to avenge the celestial emperors. In an instant, the immortals who had just quietened down became excited again. King retards. Biao Ting was so angry that his liver hurt. Suddenly he did not want to care about these people who were courting death. They could do whatever they wanted. After all, the ones lying on the ground were not Qingzhe's immortals. I advise you to quickly surrender. Lu Ming's expression darkened. He looked at the angry crowd and said, otherwise the immortals will have to fight. Everyone. Hui Ling also stepped forward. Something flashed across her eyes. With a kind and worried expression she said, this could be the idea of Sect Master Shen and the others. I think most of the disciples of Invincible Sect are innocent. The important thing is to hand over Sect Master Shen Ying and the 10 Directions divine weapon that they took away. We will not make things difficult for the others. She deliberately mentioned the 10 Directions divine weapon. Indeed, when the crowd heard that, their eyes lit up and they all began to shout. That's right. Hand over that bastard Shen and the divine weapon. The divine weapon must not fall into the hands of the demons. Yes, hand over that Shen. Before the crowd could finish shouting, thousands of beams of white light suddenly lit up from the ground below Invincible Sect. They covered the sky and the earth and pounced towards the crowd, carrying with them an oppressive aura. Many people were unable to dodge in time and fell from the sky on the spot. Even Biao Ting was almost hit. When he looked closely, he realized that it was a sky full of sword rain. Everyone fell silent. Young Emperor I Ching. Biao Ting was stunned. He looked at I Ching, who suddenly flew up, the sword in his hand still emitting sword chi. Behind him were more than 10 disciples, all of them golden immortal to mystic immortal cultivation. The highest was only a Stygian immortal. He looked straight at the immortals outside the array, his expression a little excited. Cut the crap. I Ching pointed his sword in the direction of Hui Ling and Lu Ming. If you can fight, don't talk nonsense. Biao Ting. He always thought that only exalted goddess Shen was violent. So everyone in Invincible Sect was like this? Sword chi exploded from I Ching's body. 6 immortal swords condensed behind him, each with a threatening sword chi. Even through the array, the immortals could feel the aura that seemed to penetrate their hearts. In the next moment, the 6 immortal swords once again turned into sword rain. Thousands of immortal swords lined up in a row, their tips pointed at the immortals. Where's exalted goddess Shen? Biao Ting looked around and realized that Shining was not around. His expression changed. Was it really okay not to ask exalted goddess to come along? Master has important matters to attend to. It's not convenient for her to come, I Ching said in a low voice. We are enough. Then wait for I Ching. Don't rush. Before he could finish, I Ching waved his hand. Do it. Yes. All the disciples replied in unison. Wait, there are thousands of immortals here. Thousands of swords shot out at once. They were about to rush out of the array. Suddenly, a familiar and loud voice came from the back of the hall. Chef. Just as he was about to rush out of the formation, he stopped in midair with a click. Even the rain of swords in the air froze. Master. Biao Ting heaved a sigh of relief. Thank goodness someone was here. However, the voice just now rang out loudly again. Where did you put the vinegar? I can't find it. Biao Ting, Bai Ti, Lu Ming, everyone, what the hell was vinegar? Wait, why was the exalted goddess sitting in front of the table in the back hall? What was that pile of white stuff in front of her? Dumplings? Didn't she say she had important matters to attend to? Was her important matter to eat dumplings? And the kind where she couldn't find vinegar? Degree, Flip's table? This was a sect battle after all. Why did he feel like he was the only outsider who was nervous? Master, please wait. I Ching did not hesitate at all. With a whoosh, he flew down from the sky and burrowed into the kitchen in the back hall. In less than 3 seconds he came out with a few small plates and placed them in front of Shining. He said seriously, Master, this is vinegar, this is chili, and this is the side dish. Oh, I'm not used to eating dumplings without dipping sauce. Master, do you have any other instructions? No. Go and do what you need to do. Yes, Master. So he flew back into the crowd, still looking calm and collected. He held his weapon and looked at the immortals in the sky. Sword chi flowed in all directions. It was as if the person who ran back to the kitchen to prepare the dipping sauce was not him. Wait a minute. What was he holding in his hand? That was a spatula, right? Attack. Yes. The disciples replied. Without any hesitation, the 10,000 swords shot out in unison towards the crowd of stunned immortals. Biao Ting, wait a minute. Why did they start fighting just like that? Why didn't the disciples have any doubts? It was as if it was normal for him to return to the kitchen midway? Why did the immortals cooperate and wait for him to prepare the dipping sauce before attacking? More importantly, why was it that I Ching was holding a spatula in his hand, but the immortals were still beaten down like dumplings? Did no one think that there was anything wrong with him waving the spatula around? Why? Is identical to, Chapter 216. Invincible Sect and the Immortals had already started fighting. But the more they fought, the more shocked the Immortals became. Although there were many Immortals, they did not seem to have the upper hand. Not only was I Ching's sword array too terrifying, he clearly had the cultivation level of a young emperor, but even a country monarch with the cultivation level of an immortal emperor would not be able to gain the upper hand against him. What's more, I Ching still had the time to take care of the other disciples behind him. Although the other disciples of Invincible Sect had lower cultivation levels, but they were all body cultivators. Body cultivators were so rare that these immortals, who had lived for thousands of years, probably had not seen more than 5. Moreover, they had only seen them in the lower realm, not to mention successfully becoming immortals. But here they were everywhere, women, alive, the kind that could send 4 or 5 people flying with a single punch. Invincible Sect was full of body cultivators. What kind of weird immortal sect was this? The immortals wondered if their eyes were playing tricks on them. But the punches that landed on them were unbelievably real. There were clearly only 10 or so people on the other side, but the strange thing was that they were evenly matched. Moreover, the protective mountain array behind them was very difficult to deal with. When they were tired, they could retreat to rest and continue fighting. The only one who could break the array by T stood in the air and did not make a move. He looked hesitant. Celestial Emperor by T, why aren't you making a move? Lu Ming turned and urged. His expression darkened as he added, Are you going to watch as the 10 Directions divine weapon falls into the hands of the demons? Bai Ti frowned. He looked at I Ching, who was surrounded by more than 10 country emperors, and felt a little tempted. But the next moment, Biao Ting flew up and stood in front of him. Bai Ti, if you really want to make a move, you'll have to get past me first. Celestial Emperor Biao Ting. He stopped in his tracks. He did not know who to listen to and he became even more hesitant. The situation became even more chaotic. Hui Ling, who had been hiding behind the immortals, had a glint in her eyes. She had somehow avoided the people who were fighting and had circled to the back. Her eyes shone brightly as she looked at a certain spot in the array. Something flashed across her face. While the immortals were fighting, she suddenly took out an item. A white light flashed in her hand and she attacked the array. Her cultivation level was the lowest, not to mention the immortals, even I Ching did not notice her. There was a loud crash, and the protective mountain array surrounding the invincible sect exploded like a broken mirror. Everyone was shocked and then ecstatic. The mountain guarding grand array is broken. It was unknown who shouted, but the immortals reacted and rushed back into the sect. I Ching's heart tightened. He forced the country emperors away with his sword and turned around to fly back. There were only low-level disciples in the sect, not to mention the group of fragile radishes in the back mountain. Yu Hong and the others who were fighting outside the array also reacted and retreated back to the front hall. However, they were still too few in number. Previously, with the array formation they had no worries, which was why they were able to force them back temporarily. Now that the array formation was broken, the immortals swarmed forward, and they lost their advantage for a moment. Just as the sky full of immortals was about to charge down, a large amount of dense demonic energy suddenly appeared, sweeping towards the immortals like a gale. Those who couldn't dodge in time were directly corroded by the demonic energy, and their bodies were immediately corroded to the bone. Demon race. There really is a demon here. The invincible sect is indeed in cahoots with the demon race. Lu Ming was right, the celestial emperor must have been harmed by them. The immortals cried out, looking at the people of the invincible sect even more angrily. However, they were afraid of the sudden increase in demonic energy, and did not dare to take another step forward. Why did you come out? I Ching frowned and looked at Lan Hua beside him. Wasn't this causing trouble? You only said that there was an array formation and I didn't need to come out. Isn't the array formation gone now? Lan Hua glared coldly at the immortals in the sky. What's more, I was the one who set up the protective mountain array. How could I not know that it was broken? Where's Goodheart? Is she all right? He scanned the crowd, looking for Shining out of habit but did not find her. Where is she? It's noon now. What did she mean? Master is having lunch. Lan Hua's mouth twitched. How could she be a sect master? Forget it, it's good that she's not here. What if something happens? He glanced at the shocked immortals in front of him. Who exactly broke the array formation? It's... I Ching subconsciously looked in the direction where Hui Ling had been just now, but found that she was no longer there. His heart sank. He scanned with his divine perception, but found that Hui Ling had gone to the back hall. Master. I Ching was shocked. He turned and rushed to the back hall. At the same time in the back hall, Shining, who was eating dumplings, looked blankly at the green tea that suddenly appeared in front of her. What's the matter? Shining. Hui Ling suddenly gave her a strange smile. She said confidently, you can't escape. Today I'm going to get rid of you on behalf of the immortal realm. As soon as she finished speaking, Hui Ling suddenly conjured a seal with both hands. Her entire body emitted a blinding white light that swept across the surroundings. Her speed was extremely fast, and it looked like she was about to engulf Shining. At that critical moment, she suddenly reached out with her empty left hand. With lightning speed, she picked up the half-eaten dumplings on the table. The next moment, the two of them and the plate of dumplings disappeared on the spot. All that was left was a table with 3 empty plates. Master? I Ching rushed in, but he was still one step too late. The back hall was already empty. Where did Sect Master go? Yu Hong, who had followed him in, was also confused. What sorcery did that female immortal use just now? I've never seen it before either. Lan Hua frowned, his expression serious. Is she all right? I don't think so. With Goodheart's ability, no. I'm talking about that female immortal just now. Is she all right in the head? She actually dared to challenge their sect master. How brave she was. For all, I really want to watch. Lan Hua, I Ching, in the blink of an eye, Shining felt that the scene in front of her had changed. Beneath her feet was a field of grass. There was nothing around her except for more grass. She could not see the end of it. Green Tea, who had been standing in front of her, had also disappeared. The scenery was a little monotonous. Shining looked around calmly, then ate the dumpling that was still on her chopsticks. It was filled with chives and meat. Shining, you caused me to end up like this. Today is the day you pay for it. Suddenly Huiling's voice sounded. Shining could not tell where it came from. She could not see Huiling, but her voice reached Xinying's ears. It was as if Huiling did not exist in this world, yet she was everywhere. Shining did not answer. She ate another dumpling. Do you know what this place is? Ah, this is the side realm, the gap between the three realms. It does not belong to any realm. It is not even governed by the heavenly Tao. I know you are very powerful. Even the Demon King is no match for you. But this place is endless. Even if you are very powerful, you will not be able to escape. She ate another dumpling. I did not want this to happen either. But you brought this upon yourself. If not for you, I would not have lost my master, my father, and even Xan Han. You owe me this. She ate another dumpling. Your invincible sect colluded with the demons. None of you are good people. Especially that slut called Shen Tong. She seduced my master. Otherwise, my master would not have been deceived by you and treated me like that. But it doesn't matter now. The immortals will uphold justice for me. They will get rid of you scourges in the immortal realm. She ate another dumpling. You are about to die and you still have the mood to eat dumplings. Then repent in this side realm forever. I will let you. Stop eating. Shin, are you listening to me or not? Shining paused and ate the last dumpling. She kept her chopsticks and plate and replied, Oh. Do you think the side realm is just like this? She seemed to be very angry and snorted. The next moment, the scene in front of her changed. The grass disappeared and a large patch of lava appeared under Xinying's feet. Deviant flames appeared everywhere and rushed towards her. But they could not burn her at all. In a short while, the deviant flames disappeared and a thick layer of ice appeared on the ground. It was as if even the air was about to freeze. Countless icicles appeared and stabbed towards her like thorns. But the moment they touched her body, they shattered. After the ice disappeared, wind came and then thunder. Every element came again. Shining cooperated and stood where she was. She did not move at all until the surroundings changed back to the grass. Let's see how long you can last. Huiling's voice became even colder. I have already refined this place. In this side realm I am the master. That's it? Shining tilted her head and narrowed her eyes. Then it's my turn. What? Huiling was stunned. Before she could react, Shining, who had been standing where she was, disappeared in a flash. In the next moment she appeared somewhere in the sky. She suddenly reached out and grabbed at the void, throwing something down. There was a whooshing sound. Suddenly, another figure appeared in midair and fell straight down from the sky. With a loud bang, she hit the ground and sank 3 inches into the ground. Huiling felt a huge amount of blood rush up her chest. She opened her mouth and spat out blood. Her whole body was in so much pain that she could not move. She did not even dare to think about her injuries. She did not have time to react. Her eyes widened as she looked at Shining. Oh, impossible. How could you have discovered me? Xinying's mouth twitched. Please. You told her from the start that there was a crack here. You stood next to the crack and said those harsh words for so long. It would be strange if she did not discover you, right? She was not blind. Who, exactly are you? Huiling's eyes widened. She still could not believe it. The side realm has already been refined. How could you pull me in? Only I can control this place. Oh, is it because of the necklace on your chest? Shining asked. The second one? Huiling's face paled. She subconsciously clutched her chest and moved backward. Impossible. How did you know? I don't like to bully girls. Shining sighed. She did not answer. Instead, she raised her hand and slapped Huiling. Speak. Who sent you to deal with me? Who is the person behind you? What did you say? Huiling was stunned. Panic finally appeared on her face. She struggled with all her might but could not pull herself out of the ground. She lowered her head to look at her empty hand. After a moment, she frowned. This was no longer interesting. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.